welcome to the regional semifinals of the 2017 Campus Series playoffs. I am Tom Sierfos, and with me here on the desk, basically as always, is Mark Zimmerman. How's it going, Mark?
Pretty good. After RMU's close series last week, I'm looking forward to see what we get this time around.
Yeah, it's true. Anything can happen in the playoffs, so there are still only 16 teams left. So let's take a look at the bracket and all the matchups we are going on this week.
In the North, we have Columbia College versus RMU and Maryville versus Kansas.
And then in the South, it's North Carolina State versus Georgia, and the opposite side of the bracket, Texas A&M versus George Mason.
Out West, it's UBC against San Diego and SFU versus UCI.
And then, of course, on the East Coast, Best Coast, it is Carnegie Mellon versus SUNY, and our featured game of today, Toronto versus McMaster University.
There's a lot of great matchups this week, Tom, and since we're only one step away from the regional finals, the competition is going to be pretty crazy.
Yeah, we've already seen, like you said, teams taking it to some of the top seeds already falling out. But today we have a Canadian showdown, University of Toronto versus McMaster University, and this isn't the first time Toronto's been to the playoffs.
That's right, Tom. Toronto made it to the playoffs and only was beaten by York and a University in a 3-0. Toronto has been one of the best teams in uLoL since its inception, and they have historically been one of the strongest teams.
Yeah, they've definitely been strong before, and they've only upped their game now, adding 4 new players to the roster and also increasing their support staff. So they hope that with all the changes they've made this year, it's going to be their year to take the uLoL championship.
And facing them today is McMaster University, a team that has been competing in Collegiate League of Legends tournaments since 2013. They didn't make it to the round of 32 last year, so this is the furthest that they've ever made it, and they're hoping to continue their great run with a victory today.
Yeah, it's very impressive to make it all the way down into the regional semifinals. They attribute their success to some of the new talent that they've brought on this year. They've also focused on more analysis and VOD review as opposed to just straight up practice in order to improve their play.
Well, it seems like it's been working out all right for them. They beat Veneer College 2-1 last week. Toronto hasn't even lost a single game in a series, though, so it's still going to be a pretty tough matchup for McMaster here.
That's why I gave them the trophy last time. I put the little trophy on the map. It was like, this is my team to watch. So why don't we just start off by looking at the rosters for today. On the blue side is going to start off with Toronto. In the top lane, it's Gao Gai. Their jungle is Yummy Bananas. Mid lane is Jish. AD carry is Airy, and their support, JJ.
And now let's take a look at the starting lineup for McMaster's. In the top lane, it's Ayo, it's Django. Jungle is Han Solo. Mid, Neto. AD carry, Tall White Bro, someone I identify with. And support, Autumn Clouds.
Oh, man. So we'll be heading into the draft right now, so we'll have to see what these two teams wind up matching up with. University of Toronto, also on top of the fact that they've been undefeated in the entire campus series so far, also had a pretty deep run in the North American Challenger Series qualifiers. I believe they made it up into the finals area where they had to play against Delta Fox. So they took it to a sister team of an LCS squad, so I'm really excited to watch them play.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty hype storyline to follow, that this team is almost good enough to play in the kind of amateur, semi-pro scene. So going to have to see if they're able to win today. They're probably coming in as huge favorites, and McMaster's has a tough road ahead of them. Yeah,
McMaster's also, as you mentioned, not having reached a round of 32. When we were talking to some of their players, they also said that, they haven't necessarily come up against a team that has really challenged them yet. So, I mean, now you go from playing against teams where you pretty much were like, okay, like these guys are guys that we can beat. They took the 2-1 just previously in this round, and now they're coming up against University of Toronto, who we're kind of expecting to 2-0 them.
Yep, and we are going to be having patch 7.5, which is still kind of getting acclimated to by a lot of the professional teams as well. We haven't seen too much play on it. Some regions were just not even on it last week, so going to have to see what people are going to pull out today.
Yeah, actually, it was very interesting to see that in the North American LCS, there wasn't necessarily a lot of things that shook up right away, but when we wind up going a little bit later on into the week, we did wind up seeing a couple of unique picks. We saw Kog'Maw pop up. It wasn't as effective for Sneaky.
Nope,
but,
not at all.
Lulu is definitely a way higher priority in the pick phase now, as we are going to see picks and bans starting out right away. There was a lot of focus on not necessarily picking Graves early on, but also a lot of focus on trying to put people on different styles of junglers as well.
Right, and you see the Rengar ban was still an extremely strong champion, despite some of the minor nerfs it received on 7.5, just a little bit harder to clear at high health, but still a very, very strong champion. And we see Victor, Ivern, and Nautilus bans on the side of University of Toronto, McMaster, as well as that Rengar ban. They also go with Thresh and Rumble. So a little bit of target bans here and a couple power picks. Obviously, Rumble, one of the strongest in the top lane. Thresh, not super played in the bot lane, but still viable.
Yeah, and Thresh has also kind of been one of those initiation champions that we've seen. Now that we've kind of fallen back to a little bit more of the utility supports. You have the Lulu, you have, we've had Soraka being played in the North American Challenger Series quite a bit. You have Nami kind of coming in. Unless you are Nami and you have multiple ways to kind of utilize lockdown, there's not a lot of initiation. But no surprise, it is going to be Toronto picking the Lulu first away.
Right, basically one of the highest priority champions on the patch with a lot of the OPs being targeted pretty heavily by the nerfs, there's not so many power picks that you need to grab right away, and it's about grabbing just strong, safe picks that aren't easily punished. Lulu being a huge example of that, as well as Karma, Ezreal being two picks that are extremely hard to punish and scale extremely well in this current meta.
A lot of poke in the lane phase. Ezreal, of course, kind of has that eventually I'll deal damage build where he winds up going for the cull and then goes to the tier and scales incredibly well, as you mentioned, into the late game. So being a very powerful marksman on this patch, that's also something that's definitely changed. We no longer have the holy trinity of like Ashe, Varus, and Jhin, and that's pretty much it. We're seeing Ezreal, we're seeing Caitlyn, Lucian, of course, has seen buffs as well. We've seen a little bit of Kalista play. Makes me kind of excited because that means there's different marksmen we're going to see.
Toronto going hard on that shield comp though with the Caitlyn. We've seen a lot of people running stuff like this. Basically, Caitlyn is one of the highest DPS champions come late game, as well as having great range to get that damage off. So you just build a team comp around her, make sure she doesn't ever get hit, and she will be hitting the enemy team. So already they have two components to that. We'll see if they end up going with the Orianna, a popular mid laner that you do run with this composition. McMaster, on the other hand, is going to grab the Tahm Kench in the Fizz. So they look like they're trying to turn this around a little bit and get a little bit of dive going on for him.
Yeah, the Fizz is something that we haven't seen a lot recently. And the Tahm Kench with the Karma lock-in, that Karma kind of be a flex pick as well. It could be support Tahm Kench. We could see Karma mid. I've heard rumors of Fizz returning into the top lane as a little bit more of a bruiser build. So this is actually kind of exciting because I want to see where all of these champions really wind up going on the side of McMaster. Whereas with Toronto, it looks like they are going for maybe a little bit diversion from that just protect the AD carry composition. They want an additional threat, so they lock in that Ahri.
Yeah, a little surprising to see the Ahri pick there, especially after McMaster does go with the Tahm Kench and the Fizz. You start seeing that maybe they're transitioning into a more dive-heavy comp as opposed to just poke, which is what the comp could have potentially done when you see the Ezreal Karma. So you think, okay, maybe we need to make sure that the Caitlyn really doesn't die and we go extra protection with the Orianna. Instead, they flip it around and go with the Ahri. And then Nunu makes his first appearance. He's been getting small buffs, and there's been a couple mastery changes that might help him out. Very annoying champion.
I love this Nunu pickup with a later game hyper carry from the marksman position. It just feels so good when you wind up having a little bit more of that supportive build. I really want to see if the Nunu goes into like a straight tank kind of composition, or if he goes sort of the similar thing we've seen with Ivern, where he builds kind of like a little bit of a tank, but a little bit of like a support, because his supplemental, the fact that you can slow somebody and with the new mastery and the utility tree just continuously heal off of that target with an Ardent Sensor and give them an attack speed buff, it's just goofy things. Your AD carry never dies.
You're right. There's a lot of like weird synergies you can start working with that build, and we'll have to see if he ends up going with that. Might just go for more standard kind of like Cinder Hulk into general tank stats, obviously, because Nunu is still very powerful in terms of his stickiness while keeping up the attack speed of his AD carry already. Does he need more with the Ardent Sensor? You know, it's hard to know.
It all depends, but we are going to want to take a look at the results of that draft, because we did have a Syndra coming in as the last lock on the side for McMaster, which means that we have a very interesting composition with a jungle Fizz coming out for Han Solo.
Right, one of the things we did not predict where the Fizz was going to go was the jungle, but there it is. And then the top lane, the Tahm Kench goes up there. A good matchup in the Shen for the most part, so not too surprising to see that. It does have a little bit of hard time matching as global, but you do still have the basically teleport ability in the Tahm Kench ultimate. Can also bring a friend with him, so he might be able to match the roams of Shen or have Shen force Shen down bot lane while keeping his TP up. There's a lot of things that you can do with both these compositions.
Yeah, so there's a lot of global positioning. I mean, McMaster said that they were a very rotation-heavy based team, although I do have to ask you, Mark, after we looked at the draft recap, who do you get your money on for this game?
I'm going to have to go with the side of University of Toronto. I just really like their comp for the most part. Obviously, the Ahri is whatever in the comp, but then you have a ton of shielding for this late game Caitlyn. And the enemy team, while they do have some dive, it's really hard to get there because you need to get the Syndra involved somehow. A jungle Fizz will not have enough burst on its own with a Tahm Kench kind of maybe transporting him to the back line of University of Toronto. I don't think those two just have enough damage on their own. Syndra needs to get involved, and that might be hard to do with a Nunu standing in the way.
Yeah, well, you might have heard from last week, I already got my eyes on the University of Toronto. So, of course, we got our predictions in, but we'd love to hear yours. So go ahead, get on Twitter and let us know by tweeting either hashtag Toronto or hashtag McMaster to @uLoL. Of course, you can argue with us if you would like, but as we know, we're usually right.
And it's kind of hard for us to argue back when we're on broadcasts, but
yeah,
feel free to try.
You can try.
You might not be too responsive.
However, we will be heading into the game in just a second, so instead of being able to argue with us, we can just see what plays out on the Rift, as Toronto is going to be starting on the blue side in this game, number one, McMaster. Their Canadian opponents on the opposing side are going to be on the red team, and we'll have to see. I really want to know where this jungle Nunu kind of goes, because as we've seen a little bit of the Ivern play, he has a very interesting kind of jungle pattern where he doesn't necessarily have to take his buffs early on because he can set things up with his friend of the forest. Nunu's always been somebody that thrives in just annoying your enemy jungler.
Yeah, if there's one word to describe Nunu, it's annoying. He's tanky, he's hard to kill, he's fast, he slows you down, and he steals your buffs away with his Q consume. So, like you said, it's a little different than Ivern, who can set camps up and then go for the invade, go for one steal, and go back and grab his camps with his passive. Nunu will need to start on his side, most likely, and then go for the invade. But sometimes you just walk in level 1, just consume, use the XP you got to level up and run away. We'll have to see what Yummy Bananas decides to do. Also in the top lane, interestingly, as we see a lot of trading go early on in the mid lane, Galgai does go for the triple reju beat start, something that has been catching on a little bit more in matchups that is pretty trading heavy, where you get a lot of harass down against you. Things like Rumble, we see it into. You're basically always taking that Flame Spitter damage. The all-in is not a huge threat. It's the fact that the other guy's going to be able to chunk you out. So going that reju beat start is often seen as more useful than going for something that will increase your health pool.
Yeah, it lets you survive in lane just a little bit longer, and that's one of the things that made Ocean Drake such a valuable Drake during the lane phase, is the fact you can just back off, you can heal yourself back up, and you don't necessarily have to go back and recall the heal away. So we'll see what's going to end up happening, because on the opposite side is the Corrupting Potion start, where it has a very similar kind of usage, where you can heal yourself back up. It also gives you a little bit of bonus into your auto attacks, but we'll have to see if there's any difference between these two top laners going down in this game. We can wind up seeing here the Keystone Mastery is being taken. Nunu actually is going with that Mastery, so I'm really excited.
Yeah, it's kind of what you have to go with the Nunu. It's what everyone was expecting to bring Nunu back into prominence. The rest of the map, nothing too surprising for the side of the Masteries, though. Karma going for the Thunderlords. Sometimes people do not go with that one, going for the Wind Speakers, but goes with the Thunderlords for the more aggressive trading there. So we'll have to see if that works out for Autumn Clouds.
And we also have a Wind Speaker's Blessing on the Lulu pickup. I know in the Challenger Series finals, Mad Life took Thunderlord's Decree, and that bullied out deathly.
It is a little surprising. It's not. Usually it's the other way around, where the Karma does not have the Thunderlords, and the Lulu does. We see it going the other way this time around. Yeah. When we talk about those invades, it's starting up already for Yummy Bananas. He has a huge health pool compared to the Fizz. Fizz sitting at around 300 health. He's at about 600. Going for this invade on the blue buff. The bot lanes rotate over, but they're not going to be able to force him out there. And Yummy Bananas.
That's the annoyance of Nunu, the Smite Consume combination. This is actually devolved into a bit of chaos here. Nito has to burn the cleanse right away. Tries to flash away, but he's ignited. He's going to get over the wall. The blast cone. The heal will save his life, and that's going to be Syndra barely surviving.
Yeah, has to burn 3 summoners for the price of 1. Jish just burns his ignite, whereas Neto has to burn both summoners and gets the 80 carry heal out. So in case you're worried about getting poked out already by the Lulu Caitlyn lane, now you have to be even more scared.
Yeah, and that was just an absolute collapse from both sides. As somebody wanted to stop the Nunu from invading. Oh, a flash charm forward from Jish underneath the tower. Nita's gonna wind up staying alive, and Jish just went to taking 3 tower shots, has to back away.
What? Where was that? He had no follow-up damage. He hits the charm, flashes in, or flash charms, but then he doesn't have his W or Q off cooldown potentially. It was a little surprising to see him not cast another spell after that. A little over-aggressive there, and loses this flash for it. Gonna go recall. Down a little bit of CS. Just gonna have to grab a second Doran's Ring, not able to complete any kind of major purchase.
Yeah, and that kind of skews the tempo a little bit back on Syndra's side here in this mid lane matchup, as she did wind up burning multiple summoner spells, wound up having to get the heal out of the 80 carry before, but she's going to be able to just safely recall in this position now that Ahri's been forced back. We do see the Fizz on the top side of the map. Looks like he's going to wind up going for a bit of a vision invade over by the blue buff area as well. Whereas both of the people on the bottom side of the map are just kind of trading blows back and forth. So pretty standard start all across the board of this one. I mean, there was a little bit of early invades. It looks like now Han Solo is going on his own little bit of a solo mission, trying to steal away whatever jungle camps he can, because it's extremely difficult to get anything when a Nunu's on the map.
Can be very hard, but Nunu hadn't recalled yet. Obviously started with his blue buff. You saw he had the blue buff on and went for that invade. And one of the things people talk about a lot with jungling is being able to count the enemy CS and know which camps are left up. Can be a little hard with Krug only being a single one. Doesn't give as much information, but probably knew that that was available given the speed that which Nunu cleared over to him and how many camps were down already. So good job by Han Solo there, grabbing the Gromp away. Nunu's going to see it's gone now, unfortunately. He's not used to being in this position. Usually he's the one stealing camps away.
Exactly. Nunu doesn't know what's going to happen, but we do see him completing a Tiamat, so it is going to be that Titanic Hydra Nunu build, which will stack very well with his Consume passive. He's going to get the ridiculous amount of HP. He's going to get the ridiculous amount of HP regeneration. He's going to be running around from lane to lane, from jungle to jungle, just auto-attacking things and watching them kind of one-shot wave clear, which is not exactly what you'd expect from a Nunu, but it does actually just factor into his kit so well. As, hey, normally you think of Nunu as that annoying guy that makes you equally as useless as he's going to be in the later stages of the game, but with the Titanic Hydra build, he actually packs a bit of a punch.
The Titanic Hydra build mostly helps speed up his clear because there is a lot of AoE, as we see AO's Django getting the worst side of this trade in the top lane. Gao is going to pick up first blood in the tank trade top side.
Yeah, meanwhile on the bottom side of the jungle, Yummy Bananas is trying to invade again. Now that Shen has won the duel, he's hit level 6. The Stand United comes in. The taunt is unfortunately going to go into the wall. He has to start backing away. Yummy Bananas has to flash out as well as Autumn Clouds and Tall White Bro have collapsed from the bottom side. Everybody from the University of Toronto shows up though, and Nunu gets out scot-free.
That tends to be how Nunu plays. You see him low health, you try and punish him, and next thing you know, he's just waddling out of his jungle.
Ooh, Nito's gonna walk by a brush. He gets the charm and the full combo there from Mari, chunking him down well below half HP.
Right, and just touch a little bit more on the Titanic Hydra rush that you see out of Nunu's. Without having any kind of AoE, it's very difficult for him to clear Krugs and the Raptors, so you tend to see Nunus pick this up relatively early. Often they don't even upgrade it into the Titanic Hydra till much later. We'll have to see if that's what he chooses to do. And they just grab it to make those camps are actually doable, because without it, it takes forever.
Yes, it does. Meanwhile, on the top side, Shen getting that first kill, the solo kill of the game in First Blood, means he's going to be completing his own Tiamat very, very early on. So that means he's foregoing the tanky stats a little bit early on, getting a little bit of extra wave clear, getting a little bit of extra pressure on this Tahm Kench in the top lane. And, you know, you mentioned Nunu usually has a little bit of a hard time clearing jungle camps. Tahm Kench sometimes has a hard time clearing camps when that Devour's off cooldown as well.
Right, both those champions don't have the best wave clear, and Shen going to be able to grab an advantage in that regard in the top lane with that first blood gold that he said. And we see Yummy Bananas continuing his aggressive invading, this time working on the red buff wall. Unbeknownst to the Fizz on the opposite side of the wall, this is going on. There goes his red buff. As we see, once again, the top side, more trading going on.
Yeah, Gao actually taking a little bit of damage here, but Jish is already up in this area, so he's going to Spirit Rush forward, lands the charm, the thick skin shield is there, but everybody's in the top lane. Another kill goes over to Toronto.
Really great invade into turning it into a topside gank. We saw that Jish was backing up Yummy Bananas on the invade in case the Fizz showed up there. Once he grabs the red buff and they see the aggressive trading going on the top side, they know it's easy to follow up on that. They're able to get another kill in the top lane. The Tahm Kench counterpick not working out too well for McMaster here. Though we see Toronto, they're not trying to let it go unpunished. They're stealing the blue buff away from Toronto.
Yeah, so Han Solo on his solo mission in the jungle, and I'm going to be interested as to what kind of pressure this Fizz can do, because Nunu's all about the early game. He's all about annoying things. He's all about stealing the enemy jungle. He's all about setting up your lanes to potentially just not necessarily get carried later on, as he's actually taking a tower all by himself in the top lane here. So as I'm saying, Nunu doesn't do a lot of things past the early game. He's already taken a tower for his team, so maybe I'll just shut up at that point.
We see Han Solo might be caught out a little bit here. He's going to end up running right down to the Nunu. Good attempt setting up that absolute zero over the wall there, hoping that the Fizz takes the jump over. Instead, he doesn't, stays on that side of the wall and still dies for it. So a really smart play by Toronto there. If he did, finish jumping over the wall, then he has no untargetability, and he will take that full damage from the Nunu ultimate. So kind of no right decision to make there. Han Solo goes down after that invade, got a little greedy looking to get the Gromp too.
Yeah, well, that was very playful of the Fizz. Unfortunately, the trickster was the Nunu standing in the brush there. So
oh ho ho, Tom.
Fizz not going to be able to get away from that one. Gives another kill over now to the 2-0-1 Shen. So as we talked about before, the kind of counter matchup of that Tahm Kench in the top lane is going to have a little bit of difficulty now that his lane opponent has gotten significantly far ahead. The bottom side of the map, we haven't seen all too much going on there. The Ezreal and the Karma is usually kind of that go-to poke style of lane right now, but I mean, you have a Lulu and a Caitlyn, which is kind of one of the quintessential bully lanes in the bottom lane. So even though this lane has kind of been not super exciting, we see a lot of things we expected. Ezreal had to blow his heal early on, so he's down in CS. He's shoved underneath his tower, and Lulu and Caitlyn have chunked that one down below half HP.
Basically how that lane goes, anytime you see it in high-level play, the Caitlyn Lulu lane gets the shove advantage, and then they slowly whittle down the turret. Here you see sitting at around a third HP. Toronto not going to push their advantage on this wave, trying to get some vision down because they see the Fizz likely in the bot jungle.
Yep, we see Ace in the hole coming out against the Fizz. Unfortunately, he's going to Playful Trickster that one, so he takes no damage from it. This Fizz in the jungle, I want to see where he winds up going after going for what looks like to be the Runic Echoes build. He does wind up having the Aether Wisp in his inventory. Has at the stop for the Hunter's Potion as well. We don't normally see that one as often, but he's going to wind up needing it to sustain himself up in the jungle. Nunu, in the meantime, is on the bottom side of the map, so he's nowhere around anything going on this top side, although it looks like Gao is kind of like, well, if he's not taking these camps away, I'm going to do it for myself, as he winds up stealing with a big raptor from Han Solo.
Yeah, Han Solo's been harassed consistently in the jungle. This is why you tend to not see very many jungle Fizzes. They do have a little bit of a hard time dealing with people. They don't clear high health. They lose a lot of skirmishes, so Fizz has been struggling. He does unlock a little bit 6 now that he's finally there with his ultimate. He is a much better ganker with that one. So we'll have to see if he can turn something somewhere on the map here, though he doesn't have great lanes to try and gank. And Ahri, very, very mobile, harder to land a fish on that. Shen is very tanky, and Nunu has his whole jungle warded up. They've done a great job harassing the Fizz, so it's going to be hard for him to surprise anybody when he tries to show up for a gank.
And the one lane that he does have that's slightly winning is this Syndra, who, while being shoved in the tower and very low on mana, is actually going to get doped by Yummy Bananas here. And this is the power of the Nunu gank. You just wind up snowballing and tanking up towers and slowing them down just long enough for your Ahri to dash and flash in there, pick up a kill. Bottom side of the map, we see some trades going down because it looks like Autumn Clouds is going to wind up falling as well. Ahri and JJ going to pick that kill. Now Tall White Bro very low on mana himself. His tower's extremely low, and he's got a Nunu collapsing from the other side. But
the minion wave's down.
Minion wave is dead, but there's still a very tanky Nunu. Ace in the hole is going to channel. The Ice Blast will actually not wind up taking him down. It looks like Nunu's going to just seal the deal with this one by walking up and smacking him. Although now Fizz is coming into this side. Chum the Waters comes out. The Stand United is there. Aries going to flash to the side to save his jungler. It looks like Lulu's going to tank up the tower and wind up falling at that time. They wind up focusing down the tower, so Galgai stays alive, and Yummy Banana is going to get eaten up and spit out. Finally a kill for the Tahm Kench. He utilizes ultimate to roam all the way down here. Galgai's very, very low. He's going to get flashed on, and the shutdown goes over to Tahm Kench, but he's not long for this world. Aerie picks up a kill.
Oh, God, that was a crazy fight down the bot lane. JJ actually gets executed by the turret, so they don't grab that kill. It looks like a 3-for-1, or a 3-for-3, but it's really not. It's a 2-for-3 in that sense. You get to see the strength of the Tahm Kench pick a little bit there, being able to follow the Shen. Sure, it's a little bit late. That's what we were talking about, the range of the Tahm Kench ultimate not quite being able to match up, but he is able to get involved in that play, get those 2 kills back. Still goes down. The turret drops as well, so now we're seeing a 5,000 gold lead essentially for University of Toronto here, off the back of some crazy dives in the mid and bot lane.
I'm really a huge fan of everything Toronto's done to kind of set up this early game. The Nunu pick has been extremely useful. They've made sure to deny the opposing jungler on this risky kind of pick. And I mean, everything that they kind of wanted to do is working out for them. So if you guys were on the side of hashtag McMaster and hashtag Toronto has swayed your opinion, of course, let us know by tweeting at uLoL. And, you know, if maybe you are still a McMaster faithful, let your voice be heard. Although, a lot of the times when we see a Rift Herald being taken is because one team has a significant advantage over the other.
McMaster did spot it going down, but does not look like they're going to do anything to stop it. And like you said, I really do like what Toronto has done with the Nunu pick, because it's often hard to get this thing going, but they have a lot of pushing lanes that allows these kinds of dives that you see. So it starts out with the bot lane being very aggressive, getting some good trades on the Autumn Clouds, gets caught out a little bit there, forced to turn around and try and trade back. Despite all the healing that comes in through that empowered tether, still drops, and then Tall White Bro is stuck underneath this turret. And this is what Nunu loves. When someone's stuck under the turret, they can't get away. He's able to wrap in from behind and start slowing them down. Not as clean of a dive as you would have liked, because all the creeps were cleared out. And they're a little hesitant if they should really go for it, but you see the Nunu able to go in there with that Tiamat proc, clean him up. Han Solo tries to punish. You see the Shen all come in as well. The flash through by Caitlyn leaves Lulu out to dry a little bit, but she goes down getting executed. That allows him to grab the turret, then focus down Han Solo, and the Tahm Kench just finally showed up to try and counteract this one.
Yeah, and while they are able to successfully get this tower, get this dive going down from the side of Toronto, Tahm Kench has picked up 2 very much needed kills that kind of try to stabilize in this top lane, although Shen, his opponent, has 3 kills and 2 assists after all that goes down, as now we see Han Solo trading against Galgai. No damage coming up from that Chum the Waters, but Fizz is going to try to chase this down anyway. Has a red buff available. We see that there are multiple people coming in from the bottom side of the map now. Yummy Banana's throwing this Ice Blast out, but hey, yo, it's Django coming from the backside, but Yummy Banana is able to seal the deal on that kill on the Han Solo, but he will get the kill on the Galgai at the same time. And now Nunu doing what Nunu does best, where he just kind of soaks up damage, but nobody else on the side of Toronto is going to wind up saving him, so he will wind up going down.
Overextension there on the top side by Toronto. You see that they think they're, oh, our top laner is stronger, he'll fight the jungler, but McMaster is roaming up there. Now we see the teleport, essentially, of the Tahm Kench come in to try and defend this mid lane turret.
Karma. Taking a lot of damage there.
Yeah, getting pretty low.
Oh, but Jish is going to get tongued up. He's going to get eaten up, though. Doesn't look like the Devour's yet available. Lulu's wild grip to keep him alive for now, and they are going to want to pick up a kill on the Nito as JJ flashes forward. They're actually going to pick up a double kill for this Lulu. Windspeaker's blessing be damned. He's still getting aggressive. Jago's going to try to chase after JJ. Gets the stun down, will get the shutdown, but now Galgai's respawned and ready to take him down. Area is moved up from the bottom side of the map, and they're trying to burn through this HP of Tahm Kench, but now Fizz is respawned and joined the fight. So everybody's coming up. Everybody's going down. It looks like that Caitlyn actually going to net away and heals. On the flip side, Tall White Bro comes in here trying to deal with Galguy. Galguy's going to taunt away, but is he going to be able to get away? It looks like he will. Nunu's now joined the fray as a new challenger approaches. The ace in the hole comes out from Caitlyn after all of that finally settles down. I have no idea who comes out ahead.
I'm pretty sure overall that was a 2 for 2. It started with the support in mids getting traded out, and then despite all the collapses coming in from the top jungle and AD carries, no one else died. So I believe that was a 2 for 2. And that's overall not bad for McMaster. Anytime that you're not having the gold lead expand when you're at a deficit, as Han Solo showing he knows how to use the fizz. Drop that aggro for a second.
Moment.
Yeah, I mean, Gromp is a ranged attack, so you're able to disjoint it and avoid the damage. So good usage of the fizz E there to stay alive while clearing. In Toronto, getting a little over-aggressive at points here. They were at a 5,000 gold lead not too long ago, now down to about a 4,000 gold lead. So McMaster still hanging in there, but hasn't grabbed their first turret of the game yet or anything.
McMaster's is definitely thriving on the fact that some of these more chaotic fights are allowing their members to kind of rotate around the map and group up. And when we talked to them before, they basically said that they were a team that very much thrived on being able to rotate around the map and move to group up for these fights. So even though Toronto had gotten a lot of ridiculous advantages in the early game by invading the opponent's jungle, putting down wards and spotting out the fizz and harassing people through the lane phase, now that things have kind of devolved a little bit, McMaster is slowly accruing a bit of a gold lead as now they get the stun down on the G. Has to wind up flashing away. The charm's going to Lando, and then Nunu comes in with the Ice Blast Brigade. The Absolute Zero goes through, but it won't be enough to kill him as the Inspire Shield comes through. But here comes Jago. He's going to wind up using the Abyssal Voyage to get in, and Jish is going to Spirit Dash out.
Small overextension there by Neto. Gets caught out by the Ahri charm, goes down. McMaster was trying to rotate in, like you said, using the very rotation-heavy style that they have, but a little too late there as their Syndra already died in the mid lane. Now Toronto is grouping up, hoping to push down with that wave clear on the side of McMaster's. I mean, Syndra's really the only one with it, so it should be an easy turret for them to break as it's already sitting at around 25% health.
Yep, you got a Blood Boil Caitlyn with a Runon's Hurricane already, so this tower will not stay long for a while. So it is going to wind up being Caitlyn picking that one up. And University of Toronto are getting their third and final outer tower of the game. And now that they've taken every single outer map objective, they decided they might as well fall back and take this very free Cloud Drake.
Right, obviously it's going to help them a little bit considering that we've seen a lot of skirmishes breaking out. Whoever gets there first is winning these fights, so good that they get this Cloud Drake, helps them get to those fights even faster. But they probably want to settle down a little bit. Their team comp, while they're ahead and going to win a lot of skirmishes, it's not really what it wants to do. You want to see them grouping up and using the Nunu, Lulu, Caitlyn to make this annoying, harassing champion, whittling down turrets, and a lot less of this kind of scrappy skirmishing that's been happening.
A lot of the utility marksman style builds, because this one isn't necessarily a protect the AD carry build like we've seen with like the Karma or the Orianna mid lane and all the shields and the Ardent Sensors and everything. This is more about like just like the standard buff up the AD carry style, and you also have the Ahri to kind of just anybody who tries to jump on her, like the Fizz or like the Tahm Kench, may be able to get charmed out. But this is definitely one of those things that helps a later game carry like the Caitlyn become more effective early on. We always talk about Caitlyn having this mid-game plateau. She hits 2 items, and then she kind of gets stuck for a little while before she hits like the 3rd or 4th item. With the additional attack speed, with the shield, with the ability to move faster and reposition herself easier, it becomes a little bit easier to siege into that inner lane of towers where Caitlyn normally struggles.
And that's one of the nice things about having the Ahri pick as well, a champion that is fairly strong in the early mid game, having the ability to blow up a lot of people, especially once you grab that Proto Belt, adds some extra damage, extra mobility onto the Ahri. Not always the first pick or first purchased item, but it's been seeing a little bit more popularity. And yeah, while they try and dive on your Caitlyn, maybe you can use the Ahri instead to deliver a Shen onto the enemy team's backline. There's a bunch of different ways that you can play this comp out when it's not as standard as use all your spells protecting Caitlyn. So they have some more options available. And like you said, Caitlyn at this point in the game does start dropping off a little bit. Hard to deal with someone who has a Sunfire Cape like a Tahm Kench when you have no armor pen and not even a full IE finished.
Well, they're going to be utilizing this Caitlyn on the top side of the map. It looks like to be the first outer tower they want to target down, but they have gotten themselves into a little bit of a split push situation. Ahri in the mid lane, Shen on the bottom side of the map, and the unit of 3 with a Nunu and a Lulu buffing up their marksman in the top side. Let's see what McMaster winds up doing to try to respond to this one. The Fizz is still kind of a little bit underwhelming at this point. He's gotten his Ionian Boots of the City. He has the Runic Echoes picked up, and he looks like he might be trying to go for some picks here with Tahm Kench, but a good flash away from Galguy gets him out of trouble.
Yeah, able to flash away there by Galguy, and on the top side, you do see that 3-man core that we were talking about working down that inner turret. Caitlyn, Nunu, Lulu. You have extremely tanky frontliner in Nunu who's hard to get through when he drops his ultimate, and then the Caitlyn sitting on the backside just pelting things down. Looks like they're rotating to the mid lane, meeting up with the Ahri who was pushing in as well. Galguy moved up there So they're getting a 5-man push in the mid lane, but it doesn't look like McMaster wants to give this one up.
Oh, JJ gets fished and wild growths himself, flashes into the Ahri, and forces Jeesh to kind of back away from that. So that's going to be Lulu going down to start this fray. McMaster already a 1-for-0. Ayo, it's Django actually has to use his own thick skin shield from this one. And even though the Lulu is dead, there's still a lot of tanky frontliners, a lot of damage here left available. They're going to wind up using the Syndra ultimate down on the Jeesh, but he gets to stand united. The absolute zero goes down to zone. We have Karma Flash going at extremely low HP. Yummy Bananas dropping extremely low, but he's not going to wind up falling. Now Galgai is going to get stunned up here, trying to take a lot of damage. The Caitlyn still rather untouched in the backside of the map, delivering some damage here. Has the Renown's Hurricane, no complete and Infinity Edge means not a lot of damage, but it's enough to force McMaster back.
Overall, though, McMaster comes out ahead there, getting the 1-for-0 and protecting their turret. A slight positioning error by JJ on the Lulu, going down really early on the fight. That's one of the key champions to stay alive, so you can keep throwing out these shields onto your tanky front line of Shen and Nunu. And once the Lulu's down, it's a lot easier to chase. So they're able to force out Toronto, almost getting Yummy Bananas down as well. And because Caitlyn's not quite at that powerful 3 or 4 item power spike yet, she hurts, but not quite enough to actually blow anybody up with a 1,000 damage headshot crit. So there you see McMaster, despite getting low, does not actually go down.
Well, this Caitlyn has actually gone back and picked up her Infinity Edge now, so as you did mention, on that 2-item spike right now, which is normally the amount of time you'd see an Ezreal starting to pop off as well, but down about 40-something CS, only just completing his Trinity Force, has not upgraded his Muramana, recently popped his Cole about 20 minutes into this game. That bottom side matchup has been a little bit behind ever since that Nunu showed up and tanked a couple of tower shots, as he will do in the mid lane as well, so that's Toronto cracking their first inner tower of the game in the mid lane, bringing them to 4.
4-2-0 is the big thing, as you see McMaster, like you said, down a lot of global gold that Ezreal would love to have a couple turrets so he could finish his Muramana. Not able to do so quite yet as Toronto keeps up the pressure. Having a little bit of threat around Baron, though, we see the intelligent ward by McMaster just over the wall, sees them all walking in the pit, doesn't know if they're baiting or starting it, so they send in the scrying orb, and they see that they are not, in fact, hitting the Baron buff. They're sitting over the wall waiting to catch somebody out.
So McMaster being wise to what Toronto was trying to set up around the Baron Pit area, will not be falling for that one. On the side of Toronto, though, considering they have this ridiculously large 5,000 gold lead at 20 minutes into the game, they have been able to itemize a little bit more offensively. Their Shen in the top lane going to split push, picked up the tanky components for his items, never finished a full tank item, instead went for the Titanic Hydra extremely early, so being a little bit more offensive with his build, whereas on the flip side, the Tahm Kench has kind of had to go for all those tank items with the Sunfire Cape first. That Baron getting started up. This is going to be going down very quick, though, as the 3-man split push, quote-unquote, is starting to Baron. Is now Jeesh going to want to get caught out. Does not want to getting hit up with the Chum the Waters. Does have to burn the Spirit Rush to run away, though. And that means that Toronto is going to have to run away from this Baron, as both the solo laners on the bottom side here, the Shen and the Tahm Kench, look to be trading blows with each other to stop them from getting into this fight. And it does seem like both of these teams have to back away from Baron.
I don't hate the idea of what Toronto is going with there. Start baiting it with your 3-man core. If the enemy team does not react, just finish the Baron. If they do, you have your Ahri off in the flank looking to pick somebody. Unfortunately, she got stunned up, unable to actually try and open up on a member of McMaster, has to ult away, and then that obviously pulls them off the Baron attempt. Toronto trying to salvage the play, rotating up to a minion wave that they had up in the top side, not actually able to get too much done with it.
Ooh.
A good amount of poke there on the Netto, but we see that Ahri still does not have her ultimate available. That severely limits her playmaking potential, and it's going to be hard for them to actually take this turret without that.
Well, and as you mentioned before, the global pressure from Shen outshining that of the Abyssal Voyage from Tahm Kench. We saw Tahm Kench have to run towards that mid lane while that top lane was getting pressured down, so he's in Abyssal Voyage range. That lets Galgai on the bottom side of the map just take a little bit more damage underneath that bot lane outer tower. We can see that one has started below half, and now this is letting Toronto kind of yo-yo McMaster around the map. They've run back over to the Baron Pit. They know they had to respond to the Shen. They're responding to the Ahri in the mid lane, and like you said, Mark, start up your core mat in 3 group. They don't come, you just get Baron.
Right, it's already down to 4,000 health. The jungler is in range, though. Han Solo is going to try and come in and contest this one. As we see Django teleport in as well on the Tahm Kench, and Yummy Banana dropping his ultimate.
Yeah, the Absolute Zero gets fully channeled and pops Han Solo down extremely low. They are able to pick up a kill on the Lulu, but they've already lost 3 members as Ahri Spirit rushes in from the side. So even though the Baron bait doesn't net them a Baron, it does net them a lot of kills on their opponents now, as Galgai running forward, taunts available right now, locks down on the tall Wiper. A flash charm will seal the deal as Ahri picks up that kill. Syndra's going to be running away, but you're not going to be able to click R and live to see another day this time. Well, maybe. Blast Cone available. Galgai going to utilize that one to close the gap. Is the taunt going to wind up landing? Is he going to be able to flash on the Nito? And he will. Ace secured for Toronto.
Very impressive macro game out of Toronto here. Constantly keeping the pressure up on McMaster. Not recalling despite backing off into the river once again. They start the Baron up, force McMaster to collapse, and this time they get the play they were looking for as McMaster
Wow. Jeesh is on point with these charms. I never thought the Proto Belt was going to provide so much damage, but it does. A flash forward from Han Solo trying to get the damage out on the Jeesh, but he winds up picking up a double kill instead. Redemption even coming out from Luda to heal up his Ahri.
And they grab the mid lane inhibitor off the back of that push from the Ace. And yeah, like I was saying, this time they're able to get the play where they're starting the Baron, the enemy team collapses, and then Jeesh on the side is able to get the Ahri charm onto key members of McMaster. You see them pick up 3 quick kills and then chase down the rest of the team, getting the Ace. They grab the inhibitor turret, and now, once again, keeping the pressure up, still haven't recalled. They're going for Baron again.
Now, Ahri's the only one that's actually gone back, but the rest of Toronto knows that they can take this Baron without McMaster being able to respond, and that's going to be Nunu dancing away as he gets that Baron-empowered recall. And this is going to be Toronto jumping out to an 11,000 gold lead at 26 minutes.
They blew this game wide open. They were struggling with the 4,000 to 5,000 gold lead for about 5 to 10 minutes there in the mid game, but as soon as they feel like they're tanky enough to keep baiting the Baron with the Nunu having a ton of health and as well as being able to sustain up a little bit with his Q, he's able to keep forcing down Baron as he doesn't take any damage. It makes it so hard for McMaster to punish, and then Han Solo dying there right at the very end of that push by Toronto tells them that they can go back to Baron. There's no risk of a smite steal coming in. Usually it's not a huge threat anyways with the Nunu, but it's especially free when you know that the Fizz isn't going to come flying in over the wall.
And speaking of that, Nunu pickup 3, 2, and 11 has both big ticket magic resist items and a Cinder Hulk in his inventory. So that's going to be huge amounts of magic resistance already. 177 against this composition that is Fizz, Syndra, Ezreal, who's True Shot Barrage, and some of his damage is going to be magic, and then Tahm Kench, who doesn't necessarily have a lot of physical damage himself. So this Nunu, legitimately unkillable tank status right now.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty interesting to point out the fact that they are so magic damage heavy. Good call by Yummy Bananas to stack so much magic resist. Shen, not quite on the same boat quite yet. Did still get that Sunfire Cape, but often still that's a great item to get just for the extra lane pressure it allows you to have, as you see McMaster trying to camp over the wall, find a pick onto somebody, but it's Yummy Bananas who's the closest target, and you see him take almost no damage there as we see the teleport start being used by Django.
They're going to try the Abyssal Voyage. They're really trying to lock onto JJ, but they wind up splitting some target focus here. Han Solo gets chunked out by Jeesh, and he goes unstoppable. Hey, yo, it's Django's going to wind up going down as Yummy Bananas seals the deal on that kill. Now they're just charging forward through the tower. Nunu's even going to get the Wild Growth just to get that AoE slow down on everybody. Tall White Bro gets locked up with an Ahri charm, and he winds up falling. It's a double kill for the Caitlyn. It's a 4 for 0. Caitlyn even tried to take Caitlyn Karma down onto the summoner platform. Said he's just gonna, oh, another charm lands! Holy moly! That's an ace in the hole right there for Caitlyn. That's 24 kills to 8. Toronto brute forcing down McMaster's base.
They're gonna win this one in just 28 minutes, Tom, after what was a little bit of a slowed down mid game. They totally explode onto the map. They keep pressuring around Baron. They use their minion waves well. They're able to get a couple of kills, get an ace, and that's all she wrote.
Yeah, I never expected, Toronto and against another Canadian team themselves to kind of BM on the Summoner Fountain like that. Maybe they're saying sorry in chat the whole time.
Oh yeah, typical Canadian apologies.
Yeah, exactly. But that was just a routing by University of Toronto. I mean, we expected them to be the favorites coming into this series. McMaster definitely looked like that they struggled a little bit in the early game, and even in the pick ban phase coming in with the Fizz and the Tahm Kench didn't seem like they were completely on the same page coming in, and Toronto just picked them apart because of it.
Right. I think you can look at that draft and say that University of Toronto hard won that draft. They are up against a not very strong jungler. They have the Nunu counter pick to harass it constantly. They have a really strong protection comp for the Caitlyn to go crazy in team fights. The enemy team does not have that much dive, and they're able to keep members alive. The Ahri is able to get damage down to cover some of the mid-game weaknesses. Overall, University of Toronto heavily outdrafted McMaster there, as well as outplayed them and obviously executed on what their game plan wanted to do in the early game.
Yeah, we have a couple of examples of what that game plan was going to be. The first replay, of course, we have the Toronto squad roaming down to the bottom side and picking up a very interesting tower dive situation that winds up going very heavily in their favor because they got a tanky Nunu that can just tank up this tower.
This is right after Nunu swung mid and killed Syndra, so you know you don't have to worry about a rotation coming in from the mid laner. Also, the bot lane just killed the support, so this is a relatively free turret dive onto Tall White Bro, but you see in the river Tahm Kench coming down as well as Han Solo looking to cover it. Yummy Bananas almost goes down. Eri flashing out there kind of leaves his support out to dry, but hey, it's an execute, doesn't give any gold over. They're able to finish the turret off so it doesn't finish off Gaigao. Get the cleanup kill into Han Solo there, but then it's 3v1, but two of them are extremely low health, and the Tahm Kench is very tanky, able to get the first kill on the Nunu before turning around and getting the kill onto Gao Guy as well. And then obviously Aries is going to be able to finish off the Tahm Kench there. But the big thing is the bot lane has so much pressure that they can always help cover the Nunu. So we saw multiple invades around the bot side that the bot lane was able to move over for. The enemy team's losing minions while they do that. And they're also able to get dives off because you always have that pressure as well.
And that pressure was able to be transitioned all over the map into multiple advantages for Toronto as the game went on. That was extremely early. Outer ring of towers being taken down with the Caitlyn. I believe it was like sub 15 minutes. They had all 3 towers. They were able to crack the mid lane tower, and then that'd be able to set them up for all those Baron baits they were pulling off.
Right, I mean, the Baron baits were pretty brutal too because you have the Nunu who's able to tank it so well that it's basically a zero cost play to go for if the enemy team face checks, so you just have to back off. And here we see that they go for this play a handful of times, and the Nunu's basically full health with the Lulu shielding him. We see a hard commit here come in out of McMaster trying to get on the back line. It's able to be basically disengaged with just those 3 members. Han Solo is going to be able to pick up JJ just there, but you see here comes Jish from the backside, like we said, able to get a couple of cleanup kills as well. The Ahri is able to play away from that 3-man grouping and look for good angles, and once they kill the 3 members, the front line for McMaster, it's just an easy chase down for Gao Guy. They're not able to do enough damage to really threaten him. He gets the taunt onto Tall White Bro, and then it's a fairly long chase down sequence before they finish off Neto as well.
Yeah, and that was, of course, about the fact that Gao Guy still had his flash the entire time, so he was able to utilize it to seal the deal on the Neto, and that wound up leading into the mid lane inhibitor, which wound up leading into the Baron, which wound up leading into the end of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy sequence there, which all started as well. Prior to that, another Baron bait that they got forced off of this time, but they rotate up to the top side. They're able to pressure up there, and that's when the enemy team thinks it's safe. Okay, we can go back and reset, and you know, University of Toronto says, no, that's not the case. We're going to go back to Baron instead, and that's where that team fight came from.
Exactly. So that's going to wind up being University of Toronto taking the first game. We got to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll see if McMaster is going to figure out what went wrong and come back for game number 2. Welcome back. Toronto was pretty dominant in game 1, Mark. So what is McMaster going to have to do to kind of change their fate in game number 2?
I gotta say, it's looking pretty grim because I did not like their draft at all in terms of how it matched up versus what University of Toronto wanted to do. And then when we got into game, it basically happened exactly like you would have speculated based off the draft. A lot of pushing lanes, a lot of invades by the Nunu, and then the mid game, the Caitlyn was able to siege up in front of turrets, and they pressured Baron extremely hard. So if you told me, well, what's one thing that they can take from that game 1 and repeat and change things around that, I don't have that kind of like foundation that I think McMaster needs to do in game 2. So I think they need to totally change it up, go for a totally different style, and find something that's going to work for them.
No, they had the Ezreal and the Karma, but they had no support for it on the bottom side of the map at all. So I like those picks in the draft early on. We'll have to see if they change anything, as it looks like we're getting to picks and bans for game number 2 in this best-of-3 regional semifinal in the Eastern Conference. Toronto looking like they were very good to adapt. I mean, there were a couple of jungle bans going on. We saw the Ivern ban. I don't know if that's specifically a target ban or something that they know that McMaster likes to play around, but they banned out the Ivern. They took a different utility jungler in the Nunu, and he completely snowballed. Well, I cut myself off on that one because I felt bad.
You didn't know you were going to do that, and then you
yeah, he completely snowballed the game.
If you don't feel your own pun coming, you were like, oh wait, I just did that to myself.
It fizzled out worse than the jungler on McMaster last game.
Haha, that one was on purpose.
He played jungle fizz last game.
Yeah, so it did not work out. It's a champion that definitely does not have a great early clear, and Anunu is the perfect champion to punish that. And then we saw that the two kind of work together where the bot lane's pushing in, allowing those invades, and then because there's so many invades going on, the bot lane basically never needs to be scared about getting ganked, which is the big concern when you're pushing hard like that. Normally you have to worry about a Lee Sin or an Elise or some crazy aggressive jungler punishing that constant pushing. Not scary at all versus a Fizz. So that's why I was saying Toronto definitely got the advantage there. McMaster needs to change something up. They do ban the Ahri this time around. Jish looked great on that, tons of huge charms. Toronto mostly keeping the bans the same, though this time they're getting rid of the Lulu because they don't want to give up that one in the first pick.
Yeah, and the Lulu ban not being a big surprise there from the side of Toronto, but the Ahri ban, I mean, when we looked at the original draft, we saw Jish picking up the Ahri. It was like, okay, it's an additional threat, you know, it covers a little bit of the weaknesses that Caitlyn has in like the middle stages of the game. We weren't necessarily impressed with the pickup, but what we were impressed with is how good he was playing it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the kind of thing where you're like, all right, for the comp, it's okay. But if you're going to play it like that, great, grab it whenever you want to. So McMaster this time getting their hands on the Ivern pick that was banned away in game 1. Going to have to see if it's worth that ban.
Yeah, we'll see if Han Solo is going to be able to do anything annoying with the Ivern pickup, because it does give away some very powerful pickups for the side of Toronto. This time around, the Karma is going to be paired with the Caitlyn in the bottom lane. You thought Caitlyn Lulu was a bully lane. Now you got Karma, who does even more damage.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for McMaster this time around. Toronto mostly securing the same style of bot lane from the previous game, and we saw how effective that was in getting them an early advantage. McMaster grabs the Ezreal again, which, to be fair, you know, I love the champion. I think it's a great pick. They should go with it. Their bot lane, despite kind of getting chunked out early on, losing your turrets post 10 minutes versus a Caitlyn lane who's been free shoving the whole time is not bad at all. Down 15 CS. Sure, I mean, that's not great, but they did have to react to a lot of those jungle invades, so I thought the Ezreal lane worked out fine. This time they're grabbing the Orianna as well, setting up a very heavy shield comp.
Yeah, so they already have a lot of protection coming out from their jungle and their mid lane pick. This could be good for Tall White Bro if they're going to wind up going for, you know, the CLG style of protect the Ezreal kind of composition that came up for them a couple weeks ago in the NALCS. Although we did mention Ezreal scales extremely well into the later stages of the game. He's not the best at taking towers, especially early on. So they are going to need to supplement this with potentially something in the top lane that might be a split pushing threat. But on the flip side, it looks like Lee Sin is going to be the jungle pick, so something more aggressive to combat this Ivern that's going to want to invade in the jungle. And then it's going to be Jish playing the opposite side of this matchup now with the Syndra being picked into the Orianna.
Yeah, the Syndra is a very similar champion a little bit to the Ahri, where it's very pick heavy. Obviously a little bit stronger pre-6 in terms of its bully potential. Hopefully Jish is going to be able to play that one out. And then, like you said, the Tahm Kench comes in, again, blind, as well as the Bard pick. So a little bit stronger of a laner than the... or more aggressive of a laner than the Karma. Something if you do land a stun, you might be able to all in and actually get a kill, as well as having great gank setup, being able to portal people in over the walls, stuff like that. So a more aggressive team comp here out of McMaster in the early game, which I like a lot. And then Toronto going with the Gnar pick. Pretty strong into the Tahm Kench. The only thing you have to be worried about is potentially getting eaten when you're in your mini form, but assuming you avoid that, Nard kind of smashes this matchup.
Yeah, we'll see if that winds up working out in their favor. A bit of a different composition from both of the teams this time around, so why don't we take a second to kind of relax and look at the results of the draft for game number 2. As you mentioned, McMaster going with something a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more forward-facing, but also a little bit more protective, as you do have the Tahm Kench in the top lane that can be a defensive or offensive threat, whereas Toronto, they're kind of going all in this time.
Even though the Tahm Kench had a lot of kills last game, I wasn't particularly impressed with it. It was a lot of like cleanup kills at the end of skirmishes, as well as losing the lane matchup just straight up. So I'm not sure I love the Tahm Kench pick again, especially blind. I think there's a lot better tanks if you're just looking for a tank. So I'm not in love with that pick, and I do like, once again, what University of Toronto has put together for themselves. A very aggressive team comp, once again, with the Syndra and the pushing bot lane and the Lee Sin looking to probably invade very aggressively.
And the interesting thing is the Shen, the Nautilus, the Poppy, even Maokai, a lot of these tanks that we normally wind up seeing were left open, but they wind up falling back to Sun. They might be a little bit more of a comfort pick. So if the pick and ban phase for Game 2 has changed your mind, let us know by getting on Twitter and tweeting either hashtag Toronto or hashtag McMaster to @uLoL, and let us know who you guys are rooting for this time around. I mean, I've been OG rooting for Toronto since like a couple weeks ago when we were predicting who was going to come out ahead in the playoffs. So
yeah, you definitely have first dibs on calling Toronto, but I'm also on board with them again here in Game 2. I liked a lot what I saw at Game 1. They were extremely aggressive throughout the course of the game, putting a lot of pressure down on the map. That's exactly what you want to see here in the college campus series.
And we'll see if they can do it again as we're getting into game number 2. This time the teams have swapped sides, so McMaster going to be on the blue side, Toronto going to be over on the red side. And while we didn't see anything all too crazy from these teams in game number 1, let's see if Toronto tries to turn up the heat a little bit as they understood that playing aggressively against McMaster in game number 1 net themselves 4,000 to 5,000 gold advantage extremely early into the game.
Right, and the Ivern pick I think is the big upgrade for me compared to the last game for McMaster. Ivern's a lot stronger in the early game, can deal with kind of aggressive invades. See the junglers bump into each other there, trade some damage, not much else. But the Ivern pick will be much sturdier to those kinds of invades. Also, Lee Sin not quite as annoying as the Nunu pick. A lot more aggressive, might actually kill you in your jungle, whereas Nunu usually just snowballs you and takes your camp and runs away laughing. Lee Sin might actually kill you, but Ivern, like we said, a champion that is very hard to kill in his own jungle with the ability of shielding himself, rooting you, and kind of walking away. So should be better, though the big concern, of course, is the fact that McMaster, for the most part, has 3 losing lanes again. And they'll be about making plays with the Ivern, which is a champion that, once again, unlike Fizz, can do a lot pre-6.
Yep, so straight up lane bullying from Toronto and adaptation from McMaster. They said themselves that they are the ones that like to move around the map, so we'll see if utilizing this Ivern pickup, if they're going to be the ones to rotate towards these objective contestants first. Because in the first game, it was Toronto going to fight it with their Nunu. This time around, it could be McMaster going to fight with their Ivern. It does look like he's going to make friends with his Cinderhulk on the bottom side of the map and then go over towards the Raptor camp. There is a ward from the side of Toronto that sees the blue buff, so they'll know if Ivern wants it going for that, but it looks like instead of being the aggressive invading Ivern, this one's going to secure his own double buffs first.
He's going to secure his own double buffs. We'll take a look at the keystones here. Wind Speakers on Ivern, Thunderlords on Bard. For the most part, everything looks pretty standard here. And yeah, there's nothing too crazy. This time the Karma does have the Wind Speakers instead of that Thunderlords that we saw in the previous game. It was a little confusing to see that on the side of Autumn Clouds. And once again, also the Lulu had the
Wind Speakers.
Yeah, so reverse masteries. This time it looks more correct, the Bard with the Thunderlords.
Yeah, and Bard, we'll have to see if this pickup comes in to be a little bit more aggressive. We see JJ now on the Karma picking up the Ignite instead of going with an Exhaust. There's no real key target that you need to exhaust, especially in the early stages of the game, so this Ignite going to be able to play it a little bit more aggressively here as we see JJ already trading the paint down the Autumn Clouds, taking a lot of damage.
And the bot lane of Toronto showing that they are superior, or at least in this matchup. Last game they were able to get the push and trade advantage happening again. As Yummy Bananas has finished his first clear, starting to get involved on the map, goes for the Scuttle Crab and now looking for a little invade. Might be able to swing down bot lane on this McMaster bot lane that started getting low.
Meanwhile, Jeesh in the mid lane getting some good damage down into Nito. This matchup was CS in favor of Nito before, but we did have Jeesh roaming extremely early on the Ahri, picking up a kill on the top side of the map and then rejoining the fray even though he was 10 CS down. The kill more than made up for that one. Now that he's on somebody that isn't necessarily as mobile, he does have the Ghost on this Syndra this time around though. So we'll see if he's able to make the same kind of early game roam plays because the split push threat from Ahri in the later stages of the game, the ability for her to group up with the team in the early stages of the game is what really made this pick work out for Jeesh. Now he's going to be a little bit more controlled as to what he can do. He doesn't necessarily have the flash taunt or flash charm available.
In the top lane, we see Ivern has swung behind onto Gao Guy. He does get the bounce away. Slow is going to land after the auto attack. The flash forward by Tahm Kench. Gao Guy getting low. Do they keep the dive?
Oh, he has the Devour available. He's going to be using the Root Call to go forward. Spits him out. It's not going to wind up picking up the kill, but he will eventually with the tower shot there. Oh, that cost him. He hesitated, spit him out early, had to get an extra auto attack in.
It was a little bit of a misplay by McMaster here. Yummy Bananas coming in, wanting to punish this play as well. Lands on the Han Solo, hits the Q before the flash, is going to be able to follow it. going to be able to pick up the return kill, making it a 2-for-1 overall in favor of Toronto.
Toronto being able to turn that one around. Does have to burn the flash from Yummy Bananas. Did a little bit of minion block, but that's okay as they were able to turn that one around on the top side. First blood, however, this time around does wind up going over to AO Django. So this Ivern pick already providing more pressure in this solo 1v1 matchup than last game.
Yeah, we'll take another look at that gank attempt. And we saw that it came right after Han Solo got some good invade down, stole away camp, lands the red buff slow with the auto attack there, and is able to get the follow-up slow with his W shield getting popped. And then Gao Guy's, chains his seat up there, and it would have been better, like you said, if he's able to walk him out of turret range, then spit him out to get that extra auto attack in. If Django played that right, then it probably is just a 1-for-0, and then Yummy Bananas probably is going to be able to clean up this kill in a 2-for-1. It would have been a lot harder to do so. So you kind of see those mistakes leading into extra mistakes as well.
No, meanwhile, Han Solo comes down to the bottom side and takes a magical journey with his support Autumn Clouds, forces the flash away from JJ, just getting some trade damage down onto the Karma on this bottom side.
And that's one of the most important things about having that early ganking threat as a jungler is being able to get these summoners out. Now Toronto's bot lane cannot play nearly as aggressive as they want to because the repeat gank will result in a kill. So the fact that in the previous game, the Fizz was totally controlled, unable to do anything, you get to see the benefit of having a little bit early of a ganking jungler here because Tall White Bro was getting smashed again, down 25 CS basically, and is going to need that kind of help from his jungler. Game
number 1, we thought it was because he blew his heal to wind up saving his ally in the bottom side of the jungle. This time around, it was just the pure lane pressures. I would say AO Django winds up using the thick skin shield, shoots the Gnar back into tower range, has to jump out of there. But Yummy Bananas coming around. If he lands a Sonic Wave, that could just be it for AO Django. Sonic Wave, Resonating Strike. Thick Shield did come by. Thick Skin wound up coming back up. They're trying to dive through, and they will want to get in the kill. Yummy Bananas actually solo credit for that one. But he runs into Han Solo. Actually goes over to the Gromp on the opposite side, but Root Crawler can follow that one. Han Solo picks up a kill.
Gromp really picking up the kill. He was the one who did a lot of the work there, but Han Solo will take the credit. And we see another 1-for-1 up in the top side. Bot lane trying to get aggressive here. Hops right onto Tall White Bro, trades 1-for-1 as well. The fighting's not done yet. It's happening top side as well.
Yeah, they're going to want to get a kill on Han Solo, who sticks around. A teleport comes in here from AO Django. He says, hello, everybody. And now Gnar's going to want to transform, and the Gnar against the wall. The stun and no availability to pop the thick skin. A double kill for Gao Guy.
Great chain CC there, and a huge body block by Jeesh onto the tongue lash that came in for the Tom Kench. If he's able to land that, then he's able to devour Gnar while he's still in his mini form and probably kills him there. But because that doesn't happen, he gets his Mega Gnar and he's able to get access to his hard CC, which leads to that chain stun and stops him from going down. A huge play there by Jeesh, actually, that small body block stopping that tongue lash.
So good mechanical play on the top side of the map. On the bottom side of the map, you had JJ's Karma 1v2 killing the Bard in that situation. So, sorry, 1v2 killing the Ezreal in that situation, giving the kill away to the Bard. So Toronto showing that even though they were the ones that gave up first blood this game, they are not going to slow down in this early game. Already a 1.5k gold advantage at 7.5 minutes.
Yeah, the other big thing with the fact that JJ traded with Tall White Bro there was he got a lot of summoners out just for the Ignite, so he's able to pick up the heal, and I believe the flash was blown there as well. So good play by JJ, a little aggressive, not the kind of stuff you're used to seeing necessarily, but works out for him.
We wind up having Caitlyn going back on her BF sword and boots timing, whereas Ezreal going for the I think I can eventually deal damage build, and now AO Django being picked on again. Gao Guy with the double buffs up here. Yummy Bananas coming in for the assist. This Tom Kench has nowhere to go. He winds up going down. Meanwhile, JJ getting more aggressive on the Autumn Clouds again. Airy coming up here is not quite level 6. He actually takes 2 tower shots, has to burn his heal as well as the damage comes in from Ezreal. Now here comes Han Solo. They're going to wind up trading kill for kill, though, as Daisy's joined the fray. JJ is going to get rooted up. He is going to get not even knocked up, just smashed down by Daisy for a double kill.
See an overextension there by Toronto's bot lane. It's great that they're picking those fights, but then they try and get the turret dive off despite not landing the empowered Karma Q. That leads to Airy taking a little bit too much damage from the turret there, and they're able to turn back around and collapse onto it. And like we said, the extra advantage of that ganking jungler able to come in and punish that over-aggression. If he wasn't that champion, if he was Fizz and he was held down again, being punished by the Lee Sin, he's not able to get over there in time, but you see on the Ivern able to collapse and get those kills.
Well, speaking of collapsing onto the Ivern, it looks like Jeesh has found Han Solo at his own blue buff. So Jeesh says, you know what, I'm the mid laner, I demand that buff. He uses the ultimate there. Han Solo is barely going to survive. He winds up using the shield. Meanwhile, AO Django actually going to get a trade kill as they're diving through onto him. Toronto relentless with the aggression. We'll trade 1-for-1 up there. Jeesh trying to chase down onto Ivern right there, and Sheesh, that was not the right play. His bottom lane, though, will group up with him eventually. And Nito, I forgot he was in this game, roams down from the mid lane to try to put a little bit of pain onto Airy, but he's going to wind up running away from this. Gao Guy now runs in as a Mega Gnar, but he's not much time left on that one. Does have a red buff available. We'll be able to throw the ice block over there, and things are getting a little crazy, Mark.
Starting to. They've been crazy for the past 2 or 3 minutes here. Non-stop fighting in the top and bot lanes. Nito tries to get involved. Still no kills or assists. Getting left out, not having fun with the rest of the team. And somewhere in all that chaos, Toronto also took the first turret of the game up in the top lane. AO's Django has now died 5 times. Obviously getting the bad end of the Lee Sin camp with the Gnar able to help combo in there. And for the most part, Han Solo has been running around trying to clean up these kills. We see once again opening
JJ,
up on the
don't go
JJ.
in there! Root Crawler lands. JJ has to flash. The Bard stun will not wind up landing, but JJ is going to go down. They trade a kill on the Autumn Clouds. Now Airy stuck between a daisy and a hard place here as he's going to want to get an attack. He's going to get knocked up. He's going to get taken down. Yummy Bananas now looks like they're just trying to pad some kill stats. Wind up using the Dragon Kick, but actually
nice
Sonic Wave resonating strikes on the Han Solo. He's trying to run over towards the Syndra, but the Orianna's coming as well. It's a 2v3 situation. They jump back down to Han Solo. Yummy Bananas super low, has to try to flash away. Will safeguard in time to get out as well. Han Solo's not able to pick up the range kill with his auto attack there. Gao Guy in the meantime dives on the Ayo. It's Django, and that's what happens when you have 6 deaths as a Tom Kent. You're not very tanky.
Yeah, didn't even need the stun there by Gao Guy. And once again, Neto roaming, trying to get involved in some plays. Does not actually get any kills or assists. Loses his heal for his efforts. Neto, I feel bad for the guy. He's just running around. The action's happening all around him.
Yeah, I mean, just doing standard Orianna things, trying to keep people alive, trying not to die himself. As now Autumn Clouds gets stunned down on the Gao Guy, but JJ is joining the fight, so seems to be getting a little bit of damage on this tower. And it seems like University of Toronto have definitely gotten a lot looser with their play this game, but McMaster still isn't able to capitalize as well as they have wanted to. It is still only a 2,000 gold lead at this point, though. Very different from the 4,000 gold lead we saw around this point in game 1.
And the big thing is the fact that Ezreal, despite that CS deficit, is actually relatively even in gold. Still only down about 200 off the back of all those kills and assists that happened in the bot lane. That's extremely important for the Ezreal to not fall too far behind the game because he does need a little bit of time to scale up, get his tier stacking, start building into that Triforce, and then once you kind of hit those 2 items together, you tend to power strike pretty hard around the 25-minute mark. He missed that timing last game. Hopefully he hits it this time.
Let's see if Ezreal is going to be as effective as a force as the side of McMaster needs him to be, as they don't have a lot of big damage threats. They have the Orianna as kind of the team fight damage threat, and then the Ezreal is like the real damage, as though they're going to be going on to one of the damage threats from Toronto right here, as Ares going to get exhausted up, slowed up, and Nito
he's finally involved in it. Yeah, he's able to get his first kill of the game, despite how bloody the game has been. 21 kills in just 12 minutes overall. That's usually the indicator of a bloody game is 1 kill per minute. We're almost double that. Yeah. So obviously a very, very bloody game. A good roam punished by the jungle and support of McMaster, though this does potentially open up the Rift Herald on the top side. Han Solo going to check that one, but getting caught out for it.
He's taking a lot of damage there, although it doesn't really look like he's actually feels the effects of any of it. The Tempered Fate came out. Autumn Clouds has to try to run away. Gao Guy's kind of joined the fray. Lee Sin is still doing the Rift Herald. It looks like the rest of his team, they want to finish this one off. They split off, and everybody's fighting. Oh, it resets, so he's not even be able to get that one. But McMaster unable to capitalize and pick up any kills.
I mean, you get to see why generally people do not take the Rift Herald. You saw how much time that took for Toronto. And despite the fact that McMaster did not even challenge that very well, just the fact that 3 members pulled off of the Rift Herald and just left 1 man on it, it was basically impossible for the Lee Sin to solo it. So a lot of situations like that tend to crop up when you go for Rift Herald. That's why it's generally not taken that often, though we do see it a lot in the Campus series.
We do. We definitely do. That's why he is the unofficial mascot of the Campus series. So McMaster wanted to keep our mascot alive, whereas Toronto wanted to bully him around. But Han Solo went and stole the Wolf Camp away, but instead finds himself a Caitlyn. The command shockwave there from Nito, reminding us that he's in this game. Ooh, really good cancel of the animation there. He's able to get the hop and the Gnar away, so Gao Guy's going to survive. Meanwhile, the rest of his team has actually jumped into the top lane, taking the tower down. Gao Guy, though, is just kind of leading them on a bit of a merry chase in his own jungle. Another kill goes over to the Orianna, and suddenly she's 3-0-0.
Yeah, and suddenly the gold lead is back to only about 400 for Toronto. A great job by McMaster being able to close this one in as Toronto continues to get over-aggressive. They really just need to slow down and stop taking so many random fights. Here, McMaster grouping up in the mid lane now, going to be able to grab this outer turret as well, evening up the turrets.
Yeah, so now Toronto has to try to defend this one. Yeah, I thought they were about to. Okay, they do wind up getting it. So Toronto unable to defend that one is what I should be saying. As that looks like they're going to try to scrap yet again. Jeesh has all of his abilities available. No summoner spells. He gets a really massive stun down onto everybody, but Yummy Bananas will die. Trying to get the kill on the tall white bro will finish him off with an auto attack. Hey, yo, which Django is cutting him off from the other side, though, and trying to zone away everybody else from Toronto. The Flash Devourer will not kill JJ. At the same time, there's going to be Caitlyn taking down the Tom Kench, and now Nara is hop, skipping, and jumping forward, trying to take down Han Solo on the Ivern. Tempered Fate's going to lock up the rest of his damage, though, so they won't be able to seal the deal on that kill. And Galgai got a tower there. Jishu's going to walk through that on the other side, and Toronto collapse and pick up some kills, 2 for 1.
They're able to collapse and pick up some kills, but the gold lead still shrinking. McMaster mostly even. Toronto probably going to be able to trade mid-turrets off the back of that overextension by McMaster, taking up that turret, trying to finish it off, not wanting to wait for it. And despite those kills, it is up only to 1,000 gold lead. And overall, I gotta say, Jish's Syndra is not nearly up to the level of his Ahri. That's proven to be a great ban because he has not been able to maximize his damage very well. A lot of his ultimates don't actually end up with kills. Just overall, a little bit sloppier Syndra play than what we were seeing on his Ahri pick. Though, Toronto able to grab the Mountain Dragon as well off the back of all that fighting.
Well, that's going to be extremely useful if they want to try to take either that last outer tower on the bottom side of the map or start pushing in for this mid lane inner tier 2, as they have already cracked the top lane tier 2 tower. And as you mentioned, Mark, we're cresting the 15.5-minute mark. We're at 26 kills, and this game's gotten definitely a lot bloodier, but this is favoring McMaster. We already said game number 1. They like to move around the map. They like to group up for these fights. They like to try to find these opportunities. The Bard and the Ivern picks are working wonders for both of these situations, and the fact of the matter is that the bloodier this game gets, the better it is for McMaster.
Definitely. I think you would want to see McMaster trading kills fairly evenly for most of this game. And then the Ezreal Orianna should be able to outdo the backline combination of Toronto. The one scary thing is the fact that the Gnar is extremely fed, and they need to work a lot better around his pressure instead of grouping him up in situations like this. It does not look like McMaster is in range to really contest this one. We'll have to see if they get over there in time. It seems like they know it's going down. They're moving over, but I think the Rift Herald will go down before they can really do anything. Might see a fight at the end of it, though.
Well, they might deny the actual Glimpse of the Void buff from being picked up. Command Shockwave doesn't land on anybody. Sonic Wave goes on to Han Solo. Galgai hops over to pick that one up, so he will wind up getting that buff. But Yummy Bananas on the other side of the team, but a good 2-man stun from Jeesh is going to get exhausted, so his ultimate won't deal any damage to Nito. But a good Nora against the wall there from Galgai, and Jeesh is able to pick the first kill as his Lee Sin. Yummy Bananas picks up another one. Now that Toronto is all grouped up, they are the ones trying to take the fight to the side of McMaster. Galgai is going to be able to, try to survive a little bit, but he winds up going, picking up a kill on Tom Kench instead. I'm sorry, Galgai got devoured and Tom Kench went down. And
that was a huge play by Yummy Bears, being able to essentially insect the Orianna into his team. If they're just dealing with a McMaster team comp that is kiting back with a Tom Kench, an Ivern, a Bard as well with the Ori and Ezreal, there's almost no way for them to really win that fight unless they're able to chain CC somebody, but because they get that insect, it allows them to win this fight, especially with the Orianna Shockwave whip there. So here you see Yummy Bananas come flying in, kick Neto right into the middle of the team, and sure, it takes a little while for him to go down, but the fact that he was in such a bad place that it forces them to kite out while not really being able to return damage, and then Galgai gets the follow-up Gnar ultimate, setting up the rest of the members. And then you see the synergy between Bard and Ezreal, make him golden and shoot a laser over top of him. Doesn't actually do any damage.
Too much gold, not enough damage. So now it's going to be McMaster out the back of a fight that they thought that they could force. Really good positioning from Toronto in that fight. As you mentioned, the Lee Sin flash insect kick to get Orianna into that 2-man stun that forced them into the choke point for the Gnar ultimate. They're able to utilize their composition well when it goes to a fight in their favor, and that rockets them back into a 3,000 gold lead. They've taken down the Rift Herald buff, and they've kind of regrouped themselves from what was the chaos of the early game. The things we credited Toronto in the game number 1 was the fact that they were very controlled and very pushing and pulling against McMaster, who wanted to try to fight. They kind of went down to McMaster's level in this game, but they're starting to take control of it again. Looks like they're trying to force a play onto Galgai, who is pushing down the bot lane. This is exactly what I want to see. Set up a 4-1 with your extremely fed Gnar, who generally has the pressure advantage versus Tom Kench anyways. He also got the Rift Herald buff, despite all that confusion that was going on with it. He did pick that up. It's going to help him hit these turrets down now, and it feels very hard for McMaster to deal with it from now on. They do have some good engage with the Bard ultimate, maybe being able to CC some people and set up a Orianna Shockwave or something, but it is hard from this point on to force team fights extremely well versus Toronto, and Toronto will have that kind of 4-1 pressure advantage now that they also have the gold lead. Yeah, and they're Tom Kench from the side from McMaster. You think he'd be a beefy frontline at this point, but considering how far behind that Gnar he is, 69 CS, 2-8-3, has yet to finish an actual tanky item. All he has is that pair of Ninja Tab Eye, so not going to be the one that's able to match the Gnar in the split push. We've already seen 2 members kind of going down to have to deal with that Gnar, which is letting the core group of 4 here from Toronto get some damage down onto the towers, as it looks like, though, the Ivern brushes are a little bit of annoyance, as they aren't going to be able to siege down this tower as effectively until the minions actually get up.
All right, I mean, we criticized that Tahm Kench pick a little bit during the draft. Now we get to see why. Got counterpicked, got camped. 2-8-3, 73 CS. Not at all the performance that you need out of a top laner in the potential decisive game in this semifinals.
It's true. And meanwhile, across the board, we do see some things going in favor of McMaster. That mid lane matchup has definitely been a boon for them. Slight CS advantage in favor of Neto and his Orianna. 3-0-1 has already picked up the Morellonomicon, has pieces for what could potentially wind up being an Abyssal Scepter if he wants to go for that one. Although on the flip side there from Toronto, you still wind up having a 4-4-2 Caitlyn who has died a lot more than the previous game, but has gone for the Infinity Edge first, so he's going to be dealing a little bit more damage to towers in the previous matchup where she went Renon's first. Right,
but this time around, the Ezreal is much closer to matching the Caitlyn. Already has his Mirror Mana finished, sitting on a couple components that will eventually turn into a Triforce. Much further ahead for this point in the game than where he was last time around, where at almost 25 minutes, he still had not power spiked completely with the Mirror Mana transforming.
So we'll see who's going to be the key factor for McMaster if they so choose to try to contest one of the Drakes coming up in about 40 seconds. It will be an Ocean Drake. Won't be the biggest point of contesting. However, with the Command Shockwave from Orianna, that may be one of the things that the side of McMaster wants to do. Of course, they don't want to cede any more objectives to the side of Toronto. They've already given up 4 towers for the price of 2. They've given up a Mountain Dragon. They've given up that Rift Herald that Gnar has been utilizing now on the top side of the map. Gnar has his teleport available, as does Tahm Kench. He's actually over on this bottom side, and it looks like that Toronto's going to attack the source of the globals, going after AoH Django, pushing up a little bit far. He's only level 10 compared to the level 11 jungler, the level 9 support, and the level 12 Syndra that's about to rain pain down on his head.
Right, you see them, Django totally caught out, his team doing nothing to try and help support him. They're trying to push up this mid lane instead. AoH Django going to get his 9th death of the game, caught out pushing in the bot lane, as we see Gao Guy in the top side pushing that one in. Good setup over here by Toronto, getting the split pusher on the far side of the objective that you're going for. He's able to push that wave in. People need to move on to that side to collect that wave, which will eventually open up this Ocean Dragon for Toronto to grab. They ping it out now to start this one off.
Yep, and Airy pretty much can do this one by himself as the combat group's over. They have Syndra just in the mid lane. While the Syndra play from Jeesh hasn't necessarily been as on point as his Ahri play, it does provide something that Toronto did not have in their mid lane pick, which is more consistent wave clear from the previous game. So instead of necessarily going for all these assassinations and fights where his ultimate is, leaving them with a little bit of HP and they're getting into these sloppy engagements, it does have a little bit more wave clear potential, so they are able to secure some more of these objectives.
Able to pick up his Leandries now, for the most part online. 22 minutes into the game with that and his Morellonomicon, picking up a Blasting Wand as well. 3-1-5, so the scoreline looks great, but if you look at some of the play, there's some things he could have done better. Overall, though, still outperforming his counterpart in Neto, 3-0-1. A much better performance out of him, though, as well, compared to the previous game where the Syndra was mostly taken care of by all that pressure that Toronto was able to put out.
It's going to be extremely difficult for Neto as an Orianna to try to put the team on his back in this game, though. There needs to be a couple of things that go right for McMaster, especially around some of these objective fights. One of the things that they need to start doing is trying to secure some vision. They are still denying vision on their side of the map rather well, but they aren't able to really, they're not in a position to try to get any forward vision whatsoever against Toronto.
Yeah, I think you can definitely see that Toronto still heavily in control of the pace of this game, have a lot of good vision down. Now they're starting to bait off this Baron attempt.
Yep, so while Toronto baits this Baron in the dark, it could be the fight they need to seal the deal in a 2-0 for this series. It might be your last chance to let us know who you think is going to win this matchup. You can tweet at uLoL, hashtag Toronto, who are in pole position right now, or hashtag McMaster. I guess hashtag comeback if you believe in that, but we never call it a comeback.
Don't call it a comeback, Tom. We tried that once. Instantly, the other team won. So here we see Jeesh kind of 1v3ing around the mid lane. The setup overall is pretty good for Toronto here, trying to force down this 4-1 situation. AoH Django goes for the Flash Devour, hopefully setting up the rest of his team to collapse. A good ultimate by Gao Guy disengages that attempt, stops any potential collapse from coming in. and now we see Toronto starting off that Baron buff.
Yeah, and there's no Tempered Fate available for Bard. Tried to use that to catch a G-Shot in the mid lane, so they're not going to be able to just kind of interrupt this Baron attempt, which you usually have to worry about. The Redemption is going to keep everybody healthy. G-Shot is going to go on zoning duty, gets a lot of damage on the Nito. Is going to wind up using the command shotgun as well. Karma has to flash away. Orianna's taking extreme lows. Just Caitlyn and Lee sit on the Baron, but they will wind up finishing it. Now the opposing Redemption comes in. They're going to wind up getting a stun on Caitlyn over the wall, though. She has to flash away. The Root Caller is going to follow after him. Yummy Banana is going to kick away Autumn Clouds, but Tall White Bros in the front line now, dishing out the damage. Caitlyn trying to kite as much as possible, but a double kill goes over to this Ezreal. So even though the Baron gets secured by Toronto, they're going to lose a lot for this one. 3 members.
You said McMaster needed Toronto to mess up around one of these objectives. That's exactly what they do here. They tunnel way too hard on trying to finish off that Orianna. As Nito's able to stay alive throughout all that, G mispositions himself while doing so. It allows him to get picked off, and then Toronto's put in a terrible spot where they have to choose between finishing Baron buff and turning off and getting nothing out of it. They choose to finish the Baron buff, and all the members in the pit basically go down. Only Jay, and Galguy taking the Baron buff. But now Galguy might have overextended. He might be giving this one up.
He wanted to try to recall, but turned on to the Tahm Kench instead. He's going to hop, skip, and jump his way. Try and get the safety, but he knows that his time is up. He's not going to be able to take down Django. Actually transforms, gets a Gnar against the wall. Wants to pick up a kill on the Autumn Clouds. Wasn't even attacking him to start that one. Flashes away. Han Solo chases after. He's going to get stunned up. I don't know if Galguy has enough life to live through this one. Daisy is trudging after him. The shield is on. Oh, but the hyper proc from transforming will keep him alive. Galguy gets out.
Galguy gets out of a 1v3 and picks up a kill. And now the rest of Toronto's collapsing. Han Solo might be in trouble.
Yeah, Han Solo will not get rooted up though as the Root Caller locks him down, but Daisy's going to return against her own minions getting thrown down there. And oh man, Galguy with the moves.
Galguy putting on his carry pants this game. 6-2 and 5 now. A ton of pressure up in the top side. Basically blew the game open with the help of Yummy Bananas, and now he's the rock that Toronto needs in the split push situation. A great game out of Galguy so far, and you get to see his mastery of that Gnar pick, able to hit those transforms exactly when he needs to. Looks like he's about to die right before he turns Mega Gnar. That gives him enough CC to be able to turn back and get 1 kill. Jeesh, caught in bot lane here.
Yeah, Command Chocolate gets used. They trade ultimates as Nito picks up a kill there, but they're going on the Tall White Bro. Takes a lot of damage. He got a lot of shields and a lot of heals, though. He's going to stay alive. But this does mean that the side of University of Toronto has to be a little bit careful. They do end up losing their Syndra. They wind up getting aggressive, though. They're trying to go forward. Airy actually walking into the brush. Tahm Kench almost is able to devour the Caitlyn. 2 out of those 3 passive stacks is there. Now Galguy has just picked up a Guardian Angel. Might want to get him popped here. Does use the Gnar against the wall. Has to hop, skip, and jump his way out of that one. He will wind up staying alive.
Toronto, trying to sing your own praises, and you just have Jeesh get caught out and die. I'm trying to talk about how good Galguy was playing that. As we see, they also tried to force around mid lane. Disengaged. Neither team was able to pick up any more kills off of that one, though. Toronto does grab a couple more turrets, up to a 6-2 turret advantage. 5,000 gold lead overall, as well as having almost all the objectives in their favor. They have the Elder Dragon, they got the Rift Herald, they have 2 Drakes. So obviously Toronto in a much better position here to win game 2 as well.
Well, Toronto definitely showing why they have been a powerhouse in the campus series for quite a long time. I mean, they've been the Eastern Conference, although it hurts me to say this, has usually been one of the weaker conferences in the campus series. I mean, I'm a big East Coast guy. I know you are too.
I don't know if I'd say I'm a big East Coast guy. I'm from the East Coast.
You're from the East Coast, which makes you a big East Coast guy, by nature.
Does it?
I
don't love winter.
I mean,
skiing's fun. I'm not sure I really want to have to shovel my car out anytime I want to go for food.
We are both transplanted to the West Coast. So that might say something about the East Coast, but my heart is still on the East Coast, and it really makes me happy to see a team like the University of Toronto being able to stay dominant in this game for so long and be able to stay dominant in uLoL for quite some time. Being able to get over the wall there from the Karma. We're going to transition into an Ocean Drake. Galguy on the backside has transformed into his Mega Gnar form. But Toronto themselves have been a force to be reckoned with. We already said they're coming into this game. They were favorites. Game number 1 was extremely dominant. This game, a little bit more scrappy, but I mean, this is the regional semifinals of the campus series, making a hard case for themselves. Try to fight against one of the teams on the opposite side of the bracket. We have SUNY, we have Carnegie Mellon on the opposite side for the semifinal. Carnegie Mellon, we've already heard really good things about. I think that was either one of our picks earlier on to kind of keep an eye on them going into the group stage. I mentioned
Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah. Pretty sure Carnegie Mellon lets us know every time we mention them too.
Yeah, specifically Yasui, if that's who you mean. Yeah, he likes to get on Twitter and talk. But here we see Toronto and McMaster in a much closer matchup. I think this is what game 1 should have looked like if McMaster had done well in the draft. We talked about those problems that they had with their comp in game 1,
and
they got ran over. This time around with a good comp, they're matching up much better against Toronto. Obviously still in Toronto's favor, but it's been much more of a struggle. And we'll have to see if this is all McMaster needs to be able to win this one. They get a nice Bard ultimate to start things off.
Ooh, the Tempered Fate into the Command Shockwave, and that locks down the Ares, so that's going to be a big damage that already gone from Toronto. 40-second death timer on that Caitlyn. Not as protected and not as, you know, powerful as it was in game number 1, 4, 6, and 3.
I mean, this is what we were saying that the 4-man group of Toronto needs to watch out for is the engage opportunities that come with the longer-range Bard ultimate. As long as he snipes out a carry on the side of Toronto, you have the Orianna Shockwave to combo it. It is extremely telegraphed, and the fact that Ari had flash is kind of disappointing to see him go down to that combo and not just insta-flashing, though it was well-timed by McMaster. They picked that kill up, they stopped pushing the top side, which also kind of limits the push that can come in from Galgai on the bot side because McMaster can match that kind of push easier now. A good stall out there, 18-18 in kills now, but the objective advantage for Toronto is a little too much right now for McMaster to fight back.
3 Drakes, 6 towers to 2. Rift Herald, the Glimpse of the Void, still on Galgai in this bottom side of the map. Tom Kench, 4 levels below his solo lane opponent. I don't think he's going to be able to deal with him all by himself here. So that, of course, means that the focus from McMaster has to be split. Although, the core group from Toronto is not nearly as far ahead as they were in the previous matchups. Due to the Ardent Sense of Redemption coming out for the Karma to shield up and keep that Caitlyn alive. But Caitlyn, the recipient of 6 deaths at this point, has gone for the Rapid Fire Cannon, has picked up the Executioner's Calling. This is that kind of like plateau area of Caitlyn where she struggles between like 20 minutes going into the later stages of the game. Once she finishes the double Zeolite and gets an extra armor penetration in, then she'll come back online, but they gotta wait for that.
She's pretty much close to back online. The Last Whisper is fairly cheap item. She'll be able to grab that one shortly. And there's not too much armor stacking going in on the side of McMaster here. It's basically AO, it's Django. Sure, the Orianna shield will be able to add a little bit more, as well as having to probably hit Daisy a lot, but for the most part, Caitlyn is almost through that kind of plateau, about to spike back into when she becomes a total monster in the late game.
And that's when Toronto is going to be looking to siege down on these towers more effectively, as they have had a little bit of struggles here, despite the Narv giving them a lot of pressure on the opposite side of the map. Really waiting for them to kind of crack down into these inhibitor turrets on the base. Haven't necessarily gone around the area for Baron, so that one has just respawned now. So we'll have to see if they want to change their focus onto that one, and prioritizing is now AO, it's Django getting slowed up by this Frozen Mallet. Galgai just continuing to wail away, 3-level advantage over his solo lane opponent, and all the pressure on the bottom side of the map. It looks like that Toronto is going to be starting up this Baron, but they notice that McMaster is around the area. There's a Daisy charging at them. They have to back away.
I like this decision. Play it a little bit slower. You just got mid lane priority. Back off the Baron. Make McMaster respond to that. Your bot lane has a ton of priority as well with Galgai chunking out AO, it's Django. So just keep forcing them to move around the map and lose this CS. It's well played by Toronto. No need to force the Baron that hard. And like I said, I like Toronto's macro decisions last game as well. Here, Galgai opening up onto AO's Django, looking for that solo kill.
Gnar against the wall, a slam to stun him out. The thick skin shield is on. However, there's a ton of damage coming out from Galgai. Once again, the slam stun again. There's already been a flash away. The thick skin shield comes back up, but he's going to pick up the rock and get devoured. Eventually take down Django.
And Galgai being able to pick up that solo kill is when the pressure really becomes hard for McMaster here. Do they send someone back to deal with potentially losing their inhibitor turret, or do they contest this Baron? You see Toronto instantly recognizing the situation, starting this Baron buff up, potentially forcing a collapse. The fact that no one is recalling means that they just need to turn off, and here you see Toronto making that decision.
All they got to do is turn back, and actually a lot of damage comes on the tall Wiper. A good Syndra stun there coming out from Jish means that they're able to put more pressure down on there, and as soon as they back away from that fight and they know they can't take it, Toronto turning onto the Baron at the same time, cracking their first inhibitor tower on the bottom side of the map.
And they're going to be able to grab the Baron buff as well. McMaster backed off contesting that one. There was really no way for them to walk through that trap line and start things off. Galgai is able to get the bottom inhibitor turret, and Toronto grabs the Baron buff. You get to see them executing their comp to perfection there.
Hey, you were talking about the fact that Galgai was putting his carry pants on this game. It was his solo kill in the bottom lane that set everything up around the Baron pit there for the University of Toronto, and then been utilizing his split push pressure quite effectively. We harped on him a little bit towards the middle stage of the game, when the middle stage of the game was 15 minutes, when Rift Herald was still available.
When we had 20 kills already.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, it was still pretty wild, but they were prioritizing getting him that Rift Herald buff to set him up for the split push, but ever since he's gotten that one, they've been using it very effectively.
I think you have to commend Toronto's kind of mid-late game decision-making. Last game was extremely impressive as well. This game, once they settled down, they worked their way back into that intelligent macro play that we want to see. And as long as they don't get caught up in those kind of crazy early jungle skirmishes, it feels like this is a team that knows exactly how they want to execute their comps, doing it once again here with that strong 4-1 split push. And overall, last game they had that kind of 1-3-1 where the Ahri does their own thing. Here, McMaster does not want to go quietly into the night.
Nope, Jeesh is going to wind up getting licked up and eaten up. The Tempered Fate was there to cut him off just in case, but Jeesh is going to wind up going down. So that's one Baron buff gone from the side of University of Toronto as McMaster picks up a much-needed kill.
Just as I'm singing their praises, once again, I try talking about Gao Guy. They distract me from that. I try talking about their great macro game. Someone gets picked off in the mid lane. Toronto just does not want to get complimented. They don't want the hype.
Well, Toronto describes themselves as versatile, which could mean a lot of different things, and I guess part of the versatility is getting caught out of position as we're singing their praises.
Right. We will make some great macro plays on the level of the Challenger Series where these guys almost qualified, and then they will make some horrible collegiate level plays where they're just getting caught out everywhere. They definitely are able to hit that versatility.
Well, at the same time, Gao Guy just trying to be a nuisance on the top side as the third Ocean Drake and the fourth one of the map went over to Toronto as Gao Guy just continuing to focus down here. Once getting knocked around by that command shockwave, the ace in the hole is not going to wind up taking down Han Solo as all the shields and heals came in for that one, including the redemption. Daisy's going to wind up falling as now Gao Guy, Blade of the Rune King in hand on this Gnar, leading the charge, though Ares going to get taken down extremely low. Gnar's dumping to the backside though, but the Django tries to go forward. The Inspire shields are going to come out as Gao Guy transforms back into Mini Gnar, and at the same time, it's going to be McMaster shifting forward. Tall White Rose able to pick up a kill. 8, 2, and 5 on Ezreal. Quietly been racking up the kills here. Now JJ is going to wind up falling. Another kill goes over to the 5, 0, and 7 Orianna.
They see you there, Bananas. Come on.
Yummy Bananas trying to recall on a ward. It looks like Autumn Cloud's going to chase after. Neto's going to come in as well, but Jeesh is there to try to get the stun down, and they will wind up landing in the Autumn Clouds. Gnar at the same time is going to teleport back in from down the lane. The Blast Cone knocks Syndra on the wrong side, but Lee Sin on the right side. He tries chasing down. They get the slow down the Nito from the Boomerang. The Command Shockwave comes back up in all that time, but there's multiple kills coming in from this Gnar, who's built some damage to back up his tankiness now. Guardian Angel's still available as they try to chase down the Tall White Bro, but it's just a bunch of kills back and forth.
You see Toronto going a little bit too hard. They're trying to find kills in the 4v5 situation. McMaster eventually groups up and is able to turn it back. It looked a little scary for a moment there by Toronto, but they were able to stall out long enough for Jeesh to respawn and run all the way down to catch back up with him. And once he shows up, you see the power of that Syndra able to start deleting people. And despite all that craziness, Toronto, with this Baron buff, hasn't actually grabbed an inhibitor, even though they took an inhibitor turret without it.
Right, so McMaster, at the end of the day, while they do give away a couple of kills, they are just wasting the Baron buff from the side of University of Toronto. And this fight, well, this is the tail end of the fight where Yummy Bananas is trying to get a great escape going on.
Yeah, it's a nice kick to set this right up into the Syndra. They get that first kill, and then a long chase down sequence. They have to burn their teleport here just to grab a couple kills. If you ask me if that's worth it, I gotta say no, because you want that for that teleport advantage to keep the 4-1 going. And here you see it's great. They pick up the Orianna. Django goes down as well. They have to get a little careful here because the Ezreal is starting to become pretty strong and they're low health, so they need to run away. No objectives claimed off the back of all that. Gnar now without teleport. Django does have that advantage. They need to be careful about getting opened up on here again with the Bard ultimate. Looks like that's what McMasters is looking for.
Yep, Autumn Cloud's going forward. Temper Fate is available. They're going to wind up using the Abyssal Voyage. Really good usage of those two ultimates to combo together and lock down on the Yummy Banana. Is going to safeguard away, but a flash forward from Django is going to wind up pulling him in, spitting him out into the enemy team. Redemption's going down from both sides as there was a Syndra stun that locks the members up, but Yummy Bananas is going to fall. At the same time, though, we do have Gao Guy pushing away in the top lane, which Django going to have to teleport into that tower, but he can't save it. So all the side of Toronto has to do now is just kind of stall the recalls here. More damage going down onto Nito's Orianna, 5, 1, and 8, 9, 2, and 6 on the Ezreal on that bottom side of the fight, but Gao Guy himself, 7, 2, and 7, just dishing out damage against this Tahm Kench, trying to whittle away down this inhibitor, but the Bard is kind of grouped up now onto this bottom side of the map. And it or the top side of the map from the bottom. It looks like Toronto going to back away from the bottom side, so Gao Guy has to back away from the top side.
The right idea from McMaster there, force extremely quickly before Gao Guy can get too much pressure down the top side and try and punish that 4v5 situation that they can set up. The problem is they open up onto Yummy Bananas, basically the only tanky member on that bot side and one of the most mobile in Lee Sin. If they picked a better target there like the Caitlyn or Syndra, you're able to blow somebody up quickly. Maybe they can win that situation. Unfortunately, not able to do so. They only get the Lee Sin kill. They also lose their top turret for it. So wouldn't say it's worth it. Toronto now up to a almost 10,000 gold lead, sitting at about 9.5, or over 10,000 gold lead, excuse me. So Toronto doing very well for themselves. A little risky there, but didn't get punished too hard.
Mark, what do you call a double flame horizon? Is it just a double flame horizon, or is there a specific term for that?
I have no idea. Maybe you've come all the way back around the Earth and you're staring at the back of the head of the guy that you're flame horizoning.
So it's like a flame sunset?
Yeah, like, I don't know, or sunrise. Like it's
a flame eclipse.
Yeah, something like that, because we're not quite there yet. You got about 60 CS to go.
Yeah, but I'm figuring the fact that Gaogai's been split pushing this much and AO Django's not able to really match him in that, we might see our first flame eclipse of the campus series.
I don't know what's more impressive, the flame eclipse that we're potentially seeing, or the fact that he's just 2-11 on a tank. Obviously been struggling this game for Django. He's been trying to do the right things now after getting out of the laning phase, but just so far behind, it's hard to execute on that kind of stuff.
Well, they are going to try to execute on a fight here. Syndra's rotating up from the mid lane, but at the same time, Mega Gnar is split push on the bot side in that open inhibitor, and it looks like nobody's going to be able to really respond. They are starting to send the Tahm Kench back to kind of deal with this one, but as we said already, AOH Django really can't deal with this Gaogai guy on the bottom side here.
Gaogai guy? See him grab that inhibitor turret, or inhibitor, excuse me. Now he's opening back up on the Django. He should be able to walk out of this one, having the turrets nearby, but still getting low.
I don't know
maybe
about
not.
that. Gaogai's not one to back down from a challenge. Pops the Guardian Angel. The Blade of the Rune King damage and the Frozen Mallet just combining together to be massive amounts of damage, and that's Guardian Angel down now from the side of their tank.
Right, and the Baron has respawned now. Gaogai did lose his flash for that extension, but that does open up the potential kill into AO. It's Django right after this.
He's gonna walk top lane.
Yeah, Gaogai not satisfied with one inhibitor. He wants the top one as well, while his team grabs Baron buff.
Yeah, and McMaster unable to respond to either of these in time. They're kind of caught between both sides of their own map here. Is now Gaogai going to be pushing down this top lane inhibitor. Tahm Kench is in the bot lane trying to prevent the flame eclipse from happening, but now that's two inhibitors that wind up going down. And then even use the Baron buff for that, besides baiting McMaster out of position and capitalizing.
Right, McMaster now has lost both their inhibitors and a Baron buff off a sequence, totally off the back of Gaogai, and now they're trying to find a way to collapse onto him, but it feels like they don't know where to go anymore.
Now McMaster says only one place really left to go, and that is to defend their base. The mid lane is the only one that they have left available. Gaogai is left by his team as he got the recall memo a little bit late, but he is going to be able to hop, skip, and jump himself to safety. McMaster really can't chase after him because they got two waves of super minions falling into their base.
Yeah, and it's Gnar. He gets his hyper procs. He gets his speed up from his Black Cleaver as well. Gets the jump away as well. So he gets his recall off now. It's going to be interesting to see what Toronto wants to do here. They can potentially send Gaogai with one of these super creep inhibitor waves down into the top or bot lane and try and pressure Nexus turrets while the team forces around mid. Or they can group up as 5 around the mid lane. Looks like they're going to go with the group up around as 5.
Well, they're going for a complete win as they take down the Elder Dragons. So now they have multiple objectives on the map. Baron buff, aspect of the Dragon Burn. The next obstacle, Iron Rushes.
Iron Rush is the greatest opponent of them all. The Elder Dragon Burn is extremely strong this time around with Triple Ocean and a Mountain Drake. This is going to be burning for 4 stacks of that 90 times the Baron buff, so a lot of damage coming in here for Toronto.
I believe it's the Elder buff included 225 over 2 seconds, which is a ton of damage. Probably more than Bard can deal even with an empowered Meep auto attack. As it does look at the Tempered Fate was being used out there. Daisy's getting tossed around like a ragdoll, but G's caught on the opposite side, but they kick Nito back into him. So the command shockwave was used to try to set up on the Syndra, but he went to going down for it. And now that Gnar's in the backside, this fight has been cracked wide open. And Mark, it looks like we know one of our finalists in the East is Toronto is going to be taking down McMaster 2-0.
It's going to be a very scrappy game that they can end up in the second series, but they do get it in just 41 minutes, a little bit longer than game 1, which is around a 25-minute game. But they were up against a much stauncher draft this time around on the side of McMaster. McMaster did look a lot better this game. I wish we saw something like this in the first game. Unfortunate they did have such a weak composition that time around, and Toronto does prove, though, that they are the better team.
Well, McMaster looked a little bit better when they had something that could be a little more proactive in the early game, but also when something was a little bit more defensive. We already saw they liked moving around the map. They liked kind of starting off all these different sorts of fights, and when they had the Ivern and the Orianna to keep people alive long enough for the rest of the team to kind of group up, it was working out for them. The thing that didn't work out for them, though, was the Tahm Kench pick in the top lane, bullied around in game 1 and massively set behind in game 2.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about the draft in game 1. For the most part, the draft in game 2 was good, but then you see that Tahm Kench pick, it came in blind, gave the Gnar counter pick over, and that was the huge problem this game. Was once all that scrappy team fighting slowed down, and Toronto remembered how to play macro game, it was like, wait, they don't have anyone who can match the Gnar. Let's just split him. And after that, we saw them start pulling in all the objectives. So as soon as Toronto settled down, realized their comp's advantages, and started playing them again, they showed why they're such a strong team. But you got to look at that draft once again and just say, if they just picked a normal tank there, they probably end up way ahead.
And off of that, the fact of that is just the fact that McMaster was really early in like early on, getting advantage and staying on par. There was no 4,000 gold advantages until later on. They were actually taking them around objective fights, like this first replay we have for you, where University of Toronto were utilizing that Gnar split push on the bottom side, but Orianna and just the amount of pressure that they have around this Baron pit lets McMaster actually come out ahead in this fight.
The big thing is Jeesh overextending way too far for a kill. The call here is the Baron, not the kill. So after Jeesh flashes in, mispositioning himself, trying to finish off the Orianna, he dies for it despite not getting the kill. It also dropped the Baron DPS extremely low because you no longer have your Syndra contributing there, so it took longer for them to take that. It took more damage, and then they get pinned up against the pit, and it's very easy for the side of McMaster to collapse on and pick up a couple kills. Great that they got the Baron buff, not really able to use it with any of their carries dying. Guy was basically the only one with it. I mean, sure, the Karma had it for a minute there, but you just look at that play and you see that there's still areas that Toronto needs to work on. They get a little too bloodthirsty at points. I mean, the whole early game, we had, what was it, like 20 kills at 15 minutes, something crazy?
It was pretty crazy. And then we had like 30-something kills at 20 minutes. It just exponentially increased from there. But the bloodthirstiness of Toronto was something that they kept up the entirety of the game. They kept getting aggressive. They kept going for fights. Even though it didn't always net them in the objectives that eventually won them the game, it did wind up netting them advantages, even around like the 34, 35-minute mark, where there's a prolonged fight in the top lane where you think that Toronto should maybe go for an objective, but they continue fighting.
I mean, this is basically right after McMaster made a good play to pick off the Syndra in the mid lane. They get that first kill. Guy thinks he's just starting off a small skirmish with Han Solo, but both teams collapse, resulting in a 4v5 on the side of Toronto. They are far enough ahead that it looks like they're going to be able to win this, but a good combo by Neto and Tall White Bro turns this around, able to chunk out a lot of the members of Toronto. Guy now starts getting focused down. He doesn't have a ton of resistances, especially not in mini-Gnar form. He gets low. The Bard gives him some extra chase opportunities. They're going to flash forward onto Caitlyn, finish her off, and then Guy's going to be able to get away. The Karma dies, and then this fight has gone on for so long. You see Syndra has respawned. She's starting to collapse, joining into the river at this point. Yummy Bananas is a Lee Sin, very hard to kind of hold down. It baits Autumn Clouds into following over. Now he's cut out because finally Jeesh has rejoined the fight. They kill him, and now Guy without even basing, teleports back in, trying to get involved in this play again. The chase down does come through. They're able to pick up a couple more kills here, but this is when Toronto was being way too aggressive with their fights instead of playing to what their comp should be doing.
At this point, they already had a significant gold lead, so they could potentially go and fall back, utilize the Baron, you know, wind up split pushing down and trying to take more objectives, trying to crack the inner ring of inhibitor towers. And even though they wound up killing, 3 or 4 people, the fight went so long that like 2 or 3 of them respawned and they weren't able to crack the base and had to wait for the next Baron buff to do so.
Yeah, I mean, you have Guy there with his Baron buff, not using its empowered recall to heal up and rejoin the fight at full health, just TPs right back in. And at the end of all that, what was it, like a 3 for 3 or something? Like hardly worth it in the long run. So Toronto definitely has some things to clean up moving into the finals now.
That's true, because Toronto is going to be in the finals in the Eastern Conference. But let's take a look at the regional finals games all across the entire conferences. In the South, we have North Carolina State versus Texas A&M. And A&M, they made it into summer finals last year. They lost to Georgia Tech, so it'll be interesting to see if they can pull off the win this time.
Yeah, and up in the North, RMU versus Maryville will be the finals. We saw RMU in a less than convincing 2-1 win against GVSU last week, but they seem to have bounced back and been on form as they go 2-0 versus Columbia. This time, they're going to be looking to close it out in the finals versus Maryville.
Well, and as we saw in the East, it is going to be the winner of Carnegie Mellon versus SUNY going up against Toronto.
And in the West, in the last region we're going to talk about, we have UBC versus SFU, and a bit of an upset there. No UCI. This is going to be a humdinger of a match. The crosstown rivals have been battling each other since the inception of uLoL, as UBC took down SFU 3-2 in the Western Finals last year. So we're going to keep our eye out to see if they are able to bounce back and take this rematch for SFU.
Yeah, I believe it was a 3-2 or a 3-1 in the uLoL rivalry series as well, which is more recent.
Right. I mean, overall, these two teams are some of the best, most interesting teams to watch in the entire campus series. So we got a little bit of a treat next week.
That's true. So that is our show for today. Thank you for watching. We hope to see you again next week because we got finals.
First blood goal that he said. We see Yummy Bananas continuing his aggressive invading, this time working on the red buff wall. Unbeknownst to the Fizz, on the opposite side of the wall, this is going on. There goes his red buff. As we see, once again, the top side, more trading going on.
Yeah, Guy actually taking a little bit of damage here, but Jeesh is already up in this area, so he's going to Spirit Rush forward, lands the charm, the thick skin shield is there, but everybody's in the top lane. Another kill goes over to Toronto. This Syndra, who while being shoved in the tower and very low on mana. Is actually going to get doped by Yummy Bananas here. And this is the power of the Nunu gang. You just wind up snowballing and tanking up towers and slowing them down just long enough for your Ari to dash and flash in there, pick up a kill. Bottom side of the map, we see some trades going down because it looks like Autumn Clouds is going to wind up falling as well. Ari and JJ going to pick that kill. Now Tall White Bro very low on mana himself. His tower's extremely low, and he's got a Nunu collapsing from the other side. But
the minion wave's down.
Minion wave is dead, but there's still a very tanky Nunu. Ace in the hole is going to channel. The Ice Blast will actually not wind up taking him down. It looks like Nunu's going to just seal the deal with this one by walking up and smacking.
For the most part, Han Solo has been running around trying to clean up these kills. We see once again opening
JJ,
up on the
don't go
JJ.
in there! Root Crawler lands. JJ has to flash. The Bard stun will not wind up landing, but JJ is going to go down. They trade a kill on the Autumn Clouds. Now Ari stuck between a daisy and a hard place.
The Rip Turtle will go down before they can really do anything. Might see a fight at the end of it, though.
No, they might deny the actual Glimpse of the Void buffer being picked up. Command Traffic doesn't land on anybody. Sonic Wave goes on to Han Solo. Galgai hops over to pick that one up, so he will wind up getting that buff. But Yummy Bananas on the other side of the team, but a good two-man stun from Jish is going to get exhausted, so his ultimate won't deal any damage to Nito, but a good Nora against the wall there from Galgai, and Jish is able to pick the first kill as his Lee Sin. Yummy Bananas picks up another one. Now that Toronto is all grouped up, they are the ones trying to take the fight to the side of McMaster. He's
Now
going to walk top lane.
Yeah, Galgai not satisfied with one inhibitor. He wants the top one as well, while his team grabs Baron buff.
Yeah, and McMaster unable to respond to either of these in time. They're kind of caught between both sides of their own map here. Is now Galgai going to be pushing down this top lane inhibitor. Tom Kentra's in the bot lane trying to prevent the flame eclipse from happening, but now that's two inhibitors that wind up going down. And they didn't even use the Baron buff for that besides baiting McMaster out of position and capitalizing.